Yeah. So it's surprising though that he's not exactly heralded as like a person whose writing people should emulate.
Yeah, he's not like a
On the other hand, I will say when I read his writing, I feel like a lot of the other things I have read are emulating him to a degree, and they've improved upon it. But like one thing I've been thinking is like the style of George R. R. Martin is so, I don't want to say derivative, but heavily inspired by Dune. I feel you got the internal dialogue, you've got the multiple POVs, you've got the houses, you've got, and all that stuff. To me, now when I read Song of Ice and Fire, I'm like, this is inspired a lot from Dune, which I like. Anyways, I'm gonna help Graham with his homework for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. We'll hang out.
Is it math? I want to hear you explain math to him.
No,
What homework is this?
It is math.
I mean, if it's history or English, I could probably help you, but not math, bro. Yeah, just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's all right. Go.
I was gonna say I love the last chapter we read today. I loved, and I feel like we've kind of
24, right?
Yeah, where the Thufir is talking to. Is it the guy that? What's his name? Is that the same guy that was at the?
Yeah, the leader. Oh no, it's a different guy. I think.
I didn't.
He's with a different group.
At all.
So Thufir is talking to some Fremen,
and there's like a Fremen leader guy there.
But I don't think it's the same guy that
that Paul ends up with, right?
Paul ends up with, right?
What's that dude's name? He's one of the like big characters, right?
Yeah, he's the guy who showed up at the Duke's house.
Yes.
Like,
I don't think it's the same, but I also don't know because they describe him, but they don't say his name.
Yeah,
but like that chapter I like so much because it's just like shit's actually happening and it's not people like thinking about like. You know what I mean? And Jessica's the worst. Like dude, her internal stuff sometimes it's not inconsistent. And again, you could be like, well, human beings are inconsistent, but like, I don't want to read that. Like reading that, I don't like that.
Okay. I'm trying not to suck this book's dick so much. So, I'm trying.
Well, I mean, what would you like? What do you do like that? Is that's what you say? I mean, I don't. Or
I mean, something that I don't like about a lot of books I read is that it doesn't ever seem like people have a lot of internal conflict. And in this book, they do have it, and it seems more real to me because of it. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's true.
My problem with that argument is that while they have contradictory thoughts, they don't seem to be conflicted. They seem to forget their previous thoughts.
It also doesn't really go fucking anywhere. Like
Well, how much of our internal thoughts actually go anywhere?
Again, there's like a real philosophy or whatever. Yeah, where it's like, oh no, that's great. But again, it's like I feel like it's very much for certain characters, and then not others. And it's like I don't know. I don't. I was thinking about why I don't like it so much, and like this compared to other things, and it's true. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made that it is very, most books you don't get that level of.
I really enjoy the conflict. My problem is that it tends to be contradictory rather than conflict. Like they don't like, oh man, I thought that it was this, but now I'm kind of feeling like it's this type of show.
Yeah,
more of just
it's
I
like
thought this thing, and now I'm perfectly fine just thinking the thing.
It's like cognitive dissonance rather than
conflict.
Because even with Jessica, what I was saying in this one is where she's like, even in the course of a couple pages, she's like, my purpose is to serve Paul. But then in another section, she's like, I have to get back to the Bene Gesserit and talk to them about the breeding things. Right. And then another one, she's like, I have to do this. And it's like, I was like, why don't you just not put any of that in there, dude? Like, because like, I get that she's got all this stuff going on, but it's also not, it just doesn't do anything for me.
It doesn't add to the story.
No.
And yeah, so that's one of the problems, I guess, with adding flavors to things is that like you can add a million flavors to a can of Coke.
You could do when you were a kid, do the fountain drink,
suicide.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm calling it. Yeah.
But like at a certain point, it's not adding to anything. It's taking away. So you've got to be careful what flavors you add, and I see it. But to me, it kind of works. But I can understand why it wouldn't for others.
I can confirm now, Chris. They never say his name.
Okay, they say that he's like they describe his like beard or his hair. They're like
Puff Fremen the
like
entire chapter.
He's got sandy hair or whatever, and I was like, okay, you're describing him makes me think that I should recognize that.
Right. No, I
that could be on me. Could be on me.
I for some reason kind of assumed that I knew who he was and didn't really put a second thought to it. And now that you brought it up, I'm like, wait, they never actually say who it is?
Are you talking about where? Sorry to play.
Chapter 24, the one you just finished.
So we're talking about Thufir's conversation with the Fremen.
Yeah,
we haven't legit started yet.
We've just been bullshitting, and we got onto the book, but we haven't actually really even started.
Got it.
And why don't we do all of our bullshitting before, and then we'll front load the bullshit.
Okay. So in that segue, Flatland, we had talked about possibly doing 100 pages for the next read.
Sure.
Rather than doing we are kind of getting tired of doing this super short reading. I suggested that we do like 400 pages, but I was vetoed.
Well, I mean, how far ahead is everyone else?
I'm not ahead at all. I read other shit and then I just read this.
I have finished this book and 3 other books this week.
Yeah.
I have only been reading what was assigned, which is what you should do going forward in the future books.
Yeah. That's what I do also. I only read what is assigned and I read other shit.
Because I also only read up to the reading. Last week I accidentally did chapter 22 because I thought we were doing 22. So like that has happened where I maybe go an extra chapter in error just in case. There was also that week where I didn't read a chapter thinking we stopped the chapter before. But yeah, I kind of feel like we should all be on the same spot, even though I know Freed is ahead and Heat is ahead. So yeah.
It's fine though. Like I read the biography of Frank Herbert because
while you pussies were reading this book. I read the biography.
Yeah. I mean, I read about 150 pages in a different book today before starting to read Dune.
Okay.
Okay,
you can handle this.
So
yeah.
If we, in the grand scheme of things, because you're always the one that argues that you're the slowest reader, so you want to stick to your pace. There are 270 pages left.
Yeah.
So, well, in my book, there's 270 pages left. So, if we said the rest of the book by next week, could you do it? Not saying that's what we're saying.
The rest of the book by Sunday?
By next week, yeah, by Sunday.
I don't
want to.
You don't want to do that. Okay,
I don't want to do that.
What if we split it in half?
Yeah, what if we split it in half? So we do 140?
Is there a part 3? Wait, I have an idea. Is there a part 3?
Part 3 is, part 3 starts on 450.
Yeah, so if we did this again, I would argue that we just do it in the 3 books.
So
that's what I would have argued and do 3 things.
This is This is all of part 2.
Because we are starting part 2 right now, right?
Yeah. 23 and 24 are the first 2 chapters of part 2.
Right.
I could finish part 2 before Sunday.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna say we're gonna read through part 2, which is I don't fucking know where that is. Anyways,
so 270 to 445.
He's got a different.
Yeah, it is. But it's like what is that? Like 100
odd man out on the edition.
70 pages.
Look, you need to relish your awesome old school books.
That's true.
This is fucking awesome.
I like trade paperbacks. There's something nice about it.
What are we gonna do the same approach to discussion?
Is Freed here or is he not?
Yeah, he's helping Graham with his homework.
Yeah, so he's muted. He's gone for a minute. So we can talk about logistics for a second.
We're probably gonna need to take a different approach to the discussion, right? Because we're not going to be able to summarize every chapter, probably.
Yeah, probably
right.
I think that we take an approach along the lines of like summarizing the entire section of what we read.
Yeah.
And then maybe just go through the chapters like numbered and be like, anybody have anything substantial here?
I don't know if we should go through it by chapters. I think we should just go, okay,
Just
what did we
bring it up
want to
as you
talk about?
come. Yeah, like, you know,
That's fine. It's just a lot to.
we tend to bounce around anyways.
That's true.
So,
I'm fine with it. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
well,
Well,
this was kind of my argument for doing the next book in like one sitting. Was like, let's see what we liked better. We still haven't quite figured out what we
Very
like best.
I will say though, for like a smaller book, I would not want to. Well, it depends on the book, I guess. I do like breaking it up into smaller chunks though, to give it like that close read.
I do.
Yeah. So I mean, if we read like a 200-page book, maybe break it into like 50 pages and kind of do what we've been doing. But then you're still getting through a book in a month, right? And
Right.
if you're going to do a 400-page book, we can look at it and say, okay, we'll do, like you said, whether it's the parts or the books or whatever, and
That's
do that.
We could also do a hybrid approach where we do the entire book, and then afterwards we're like, I still want to talk about these things, and then we give it a week or so to refresh on the specific topic we want to talk about. I don't know, just a thought.
I think for the next book we should try kind of like Parker is saying. We should do
The entire book in one
the
session.
entire book within a month for one session, kind of a thing.
Well,
Or maybe that could also be the thing is that we have the month to do it, but like every week we check in, and like maybe some of us have finished it and some of us haven't, kind of a thing.
Ooh, that could be a problem.
yeah, no, I don't like that. I like us all being on the same page. To be fair, if we do the next book as being the Messiah, it's only 250 pages.
Oh,
Sure.
really?
in my
Yeah,
format.
I would.
So,
That's
I
one
would've-
week.
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
I don't think we really need a month.
I mean,
but
I think that your discussion is gonna suffer if you do like bigger, like too
Well-
big a chunks though.
okay, so I guess in my head, I would say like after you finish reading, you can say how many discussions you need to have about it.
I guess that's true. Sure.
And maybe we could have like a shared document where we're all we put in all the topics and stuff we want to talk about. Maybe we can start filling in notes.
Why don't-
Ooh, that would be
How
good.
about the person who picks the book gets to determine the pace?
Ooh, there you go. There you go.
Okay, but we kind of get a
Wait,
veto, right? Because I don't want somebody to be like, we're only going to do one chapter at a time.
One
Sure.
page a day.
I mean, I think
We're at one
knowing that in general people would like to read more rather than less.
Exactly.
But like I said, if it was something I really wanted to talk about, it'd be like, let's break this 200-page book up into 3 or 4 sessions.
Sure.
or something.
I think because I also don't see anybody being like, I want to deep dive into the minutia on every 4 pages of anything, right? I don't think any of us are in the mood for that kind of a.
I don't know. It depends on it. I mean, I guess overall not, but also yes.
Well, I would also like to leave open the possibility that, okay, so we've assigned 100 pages to read, and then after that, we get together and we start talking, and somebody brings up, like, okay, there was a lot of shit in here. How about we just only talk about 30 pages? Because
Yeah.
and we will move everything for the next time. Because
Yeah, we
this
can
part
pivot.
was deep.
Yeah, I guess that's a point of my concern of doing like the whole book, because if you check in, then you're like, but I think doing Dune Messiah next that way will be a great litmus test to see.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
I agree.
So Todd, Freed, next time you're gonna read all the rest of part 2 through 445.
That's page 445.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that, 168 or 70 pages or something?
Right on. Right on.
Is that double?
Yeah.
And then we kind of just talk more about the approach going forward, and then we'll probably do so. The next week we do the rest of the book. Are we going to do appendices or
Oh, I don't think
I would
seen
say
appendices
no.
with you guys.
'Cause
So
the rest of the book is not actually that much if you don't do the appendices, right?
I would say it's about equal to the remaining portion of book 2. To me, book 2 and book 3 are very comparable.
Oh, they are very. I think the 2 is maybe like slightly more, but yeah, you're right.
Girth is equivalent.
Yeah,
Equal girth.
I only have 10 pages of appendices.
Yeah.
I have.
I don't know what you guys have, but
This is here, I'll show you, Parker.
I have
I have appendix 1,
40
appendix
pages.
2,
Yeah.
appendix 3, appendix
50
4,
pages.
This is the appendices.
and then the terminology
how many?
is quite a bit too.
Yeah.
50
That-
pages.
That's crazy. Like I only have 10 pages of appendices. Yeah, if you go through the terminology, that's another.
Dude, While you were here, I should have given you. I have another copy of this edition. Damn it!
Yeah, what the fuck's wrong with you?
I don't know.
So the first one is the ecology of Dune. The second appendix, I should say, is the religion of Dune. Then the third is report on Bene Gesserit motives and purposes.
Well,
Does anybody want to read those and see if they're worth reading?
Yeah,
not it.
I'll do it. I'll read it.
Wait, Pete, isn't this your love?
Yeah.
Why are you offering?
So wait,
that?
technically Todd Freed picked this one, right?
True.
Is that right?
It is. Yeah.
I would be
But
okay
only
to say that this is to not count this as your pick. I'd be fine with that.
Okay, so I'm next.
This,
again.
this was.
Does that mean he's picking the next book?
Well, I don't know.
He's the one that picked Dune Messiah.
I don't. Oh, actually,
No, he did not.
I'd be okay with that if you wanted to do that. But this was a grand experiment to figure out how we wanted to do this.
Well, I mean, the argument for Dune Messiah was also a grand experiment. So, do we really want to do Dune Messiah?
I do.
do.
I think I really do because
I do.
harkening back to when I first thought about picking this up and remembering my experience with reading probably not even half of Dune Messiah and bailing, I want to revisit that through my old man eyes.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I feel like if we're going to do that, then we have to do the children also.
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah, I have that as well.
If we're going to go that far, we have to finish it.
In
Well,
this,
that's not
in
the
this
end.
club? Yeah,
No, I
there's
know that's not
6
the end.
books in just the Frank Herbert stuff.
Yeah,
The bo-
you
the-
only have
The
3.
box that I have ends with the children of Dune, though, so I'd be
Yeah,
okay with
exactly.
that.
Okay. But if you want to get the whole story, it's 6 books.
Is the last one Chapter House? And that one is
Chapter House.
he didn't finish that before he died. Is that right? They finished it with Kevin
oh,
J. KJ.
Yeah, I do think he died with it unpublished. So I think it was mostly in place though.
I don't think I want to start the precedent of once we start a series, we have to finish the series. Sounds like a terrible precedent.
I'm all for that, dude. This is a special case, I guess.
No. Because what if somebody picks the Wheel of Time and I just want to skip 4 or 5 of those books?
I mean, I will
put that
say
in the
I'll allow it.
I reserve the right to take a cyanide pill if someone does that to me. Like
No,
you gotta
please.
consider me, please. Like don't do that to me.
Please. Yeah,
But
I
we-
would
we-
actually say we should also consider the fact that after doing Dune Messiah, and if we decide to do the third one, after the Dune series, I would say we should probably try and avoid anything greater than 3 books in a series.
Well, no, I'm saying that we should, when you pick a book, you just pick the first book, and we aren't going to delve into the series. It's an introduction to the series.
Okay.
And we
could-
leave it at that.
We could. There's an opt-in
general.
clause. Opt-in clause, though, right? If we really like it.
Yeah, if we wanted to, we could. keep it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Sign the contract.
I feel.
I'm
Yes.
inevitably going to pick something from Sanderson,
Sure.
and we're not going to go into that, I would assume.
Yeah.
No, because once you start the Cosmere, we have to read all the Cosmere books.
Yeah,
I
disagree.
I disagree.
That's a 45 book series. Like,
I'm really trusting you guys. Like, don't fuck me because I will.
I
Cook the
mean,
group.
here's because my thing is that I think what would be most interesting, and maybe it'll just be for the Flatland picks, I think it would be more interesting to delve into books that are either A, not within my normal wheelhouse, and number
Totally.
2, things I've never read before.
Yeah, like horror. Like you want to do Stephen King or something like that. Anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally. Like I would love to do Revival. Like that's a book by Stephen King that I read and loved, and I think most of you would enjoy
can
it.
pick whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'm
anything.
I'm not going to adhere to those requirements.
guys,
I'm
we're
going
gonna
to pick a
read,
book
we're
that
gonna
I
read the
love.
Book of Mormon. Is what's gonna happen.
Oh.
No, that's if
That I will not do.
You know what we could do too is have a small pick in between Dune and Dune Messiah, and then a small pick in between. You know what I mean?
Palate
Like,
cleanser.
yeah, like do a quick 1 week, like 200-page book or something. Like I've got a couple of those I could throw up there.
Yeah, I have 1 or 2 that I actually really want to read that are cool.
Let's try and get a queue going. That way we can get these books beforehand, so everyone has the same copy.
That's a good call.
That's a good idea.
We should also figure out the order at some point.
Yeah, did we discuss that? Like who gets what
No.
pick when?
Well, hang on a minute. We could do. Well,
don't
since
say
Freed is
don't
the
say
oldest
birthdays.
man-
Don't say birthdays.
Since Freed is the oldest man, we could go oldest to youngest.
Hey, who's the oldest woman?
Me.
I'm just throwing it out there. Freed is also.
I would be last.
I mean,
Not-
I think we just arbitrarily choose.
I'll tell you, I'd be okay
Wait,
with that if you let me go
Didn't
like
we already start a document for this?
in board game parlance, where the person who goes last gets to go first again. You know what I'm saying? Like it goes
Oh,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah,
Round.
you got me there. Let's do it.
Yeah. Wait,
I like
how old's Alfredo?
He's like my age.
But is he like who's older?
fucking young.
I don't actually. I have his. Let me see. I think.
And what's
Assuming.
his driver's license number and his social?
Mother's maiden name.
Stay tuned.
That would be so funny. We did it by order of social security number, like highest ranking social.
My first 3 digits are 620.
Mine are
Mine's
519.
yeah. Mine's 518.
My social's all ones. I win.
Oh. Liar.
Does that mean they count down? Were you born in Washington or Idaho?
I was born in Arizona.
Okay, Todd, were you born in Idaho?
Yep.
Me?
But your first 3 are 519.
Yeah.
What?
Christy was born in Sacramento, and her first 3 are 518.
Mine is also
Twins.
518.
Oh, we're all twins. Triplets, that's called, I guess.
All right.
Anyway,
Okay, so let's
Pete.
get a document going.
Yeah, didn't you already start a document though?
Did I?
Hold on. I
thought you
think it's
did, but
I think
don't
it's more
remember.
important that we figure out the order than having a.
Well,
pool.
I was going to say we just put the order in the document arbitrarily, but
Yeah.
But if there's not a
Alfredo.
document already, then
Alfredo
I
is
would-
older than me. His birthday is January 7th. His birthday's in 6 days.
oh fuck.
Does it not do the roll?
Random
I guess
100.
not.
No,
Discord.
it doesn't.
Doesn't work.
Did
It's okay.
Discord-
I'm gonna
Discord
share
does.
my screen and then I'll get it.
Your slash commands are failing.
This program's
I'm
stupid.
gonna share this screen.
I thought we already argued that.
It would work in Discord though. I'm pretty sure Discord.
Yeah, I
does
think
random
Discord
rolls.
does that.
Yeah.
It do. It do.
Okay. Well, we could do Discord too. Okay. So
You're just gonna randomize it.
yeah.
Do a random.
Okay.
I'm fine
So
with
how are we gonna do this? I guess. Okay.
we're-
So here's how it looks on my screen
Whoa.
right
Okay.
now. It's Chris, Freed, Flatland, Parker, me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6. Oh,
Except
Okay.
Oh, I
Fraser
see, 'cause-
went.
Todd's in there twice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you guys can see this, right? So I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna go.
Yeah.
1 is Chris.
Okay.
5 is me.
And
Do
the
it.
second flatland is or the first
Okay.
flatland is
He chose
Alfredo?
himself. Okay, I'll write it down in the chat, Pete. Pete.
Okay. And then Flatland. Yes, Flatland.
We should make some
You
interesting
should go
rules.
by.
What
you
about
should go by
Alfredo?
camera on people. Oh, you do need Alfredo in the mix.
Well, no.
So,
He's
I
last,
was
wait,
gonna argue
my-
that the second flatland is Alfredo.
Yeah,
Okay.
second.
You guys are gonna give him the benefit of. I mean, I love the man, but he's not here.
Okay. Well, 3 was the number I got. So the
So
Flatland
Fredo.
without a camera.
Fredo.
That's Fredo. Okay. So
Yeah.
Okay,
Flatland
fair.
That was my argument. Yeah.
So okay. So me, Fredo, Parker is the order
Oh.
so far.
Okay.
Then Freed.
No fucking
I
go
guess I have
last.
Yeah, Freed already did it.
Yeah.
And then Flatland, and then Chris.
Yeah. Flatland. Then Chris.
The youngest goes last anyway. That's fine.
Oh, okay, wait, no. 6 was.
And then just cycle.
You know, I'm gonna remember this when you die. Oh, you all die before me. So
How is there 7
Dude.
Chris? How is Chris number 7? There's only 6 of us.
Because
I'm the quit satch head right.
He's not all right.
All right.
Because there were 2, 3. No, because 1 is me, so I'm in the list twice.
No,
That's why.
Flatland's in the list twice.
He shouldn't be though. That 3. Okay, let me just read.
Here, I got
to retype it.
All right, Pete.
No,
where's the
no,
document?
I should not be below Alfredo because he's not here. He should be last.
Okay.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
First
I
shall
like
be
that.
last, and the last will be first.
Fuck Fredo. I hope he watches this.
I mean,
Love you, Fredo.
Fredo, we wish you were here.
I love you,
Okay.
Dad.
Guys, I shared a document in the chat. Everyone should have access to it. You should be able to edit as well.
So we're
You
gonna.
should-
I
You should
didn't-
share that to the
I-
book
I didn't get that.
podcast
I will.
Oh.
chat, not
Oh, to
the
the chat.
call chat.
And
'cause the
we're gonna
call
go
chat-
into the document and put our book picks, or just books that we think would be good.
I think you
Probably-
do either one.
I think you need to get a like the next person after Messiah, which I guess is me.
Wait,
should get the choice.
Can
can't-
we?
oh.
Can we
Request
veto
edit
people's picks? Are we going to build that in or
Ooh.
no?
Yeah, I would
think
say
we should be able to.
if,
Yeah.
if half or more of the people vote against it, then
Okay,
yeah,
but I would say like I'm
Give me
old.
edit
Like,
access.
if you ask me to
Okay.
read a 1,000-page Brandon Sanderson book, I'm gonna vote to veto. That's
I
about
would not do that to you.
okay.
Even Way
then-
of Kings.
now that's the
No,
first one in its series, right?
Yeah,
I kind
wouldn't-
of do want to read one of his books, but that's like the level of where I would veto, unless someone was like, "Hey, I really want to read," like Todd said, the Book of Mormon or something.
I'm not. I would veto that one.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
No.
I'm
I
not
think
reading
that's fair.
was
If
joking.
half,
I was joking
them
when I
want.
said that. I would not seriously suggest that.
Were you
Okay.
full joking?
you guys should all have that.
100% joking.
What
I would
I
never
do not have access.
suggest that.
what's
read it.
the approach if someone picks something that one or more of us have already read? Just
So
Is that an
reread it?
argument for vetoing it, or is
I
that
don't
just an
know.
argument of? I think that we just need to, even if we've read it before, because we've all read Dune before and we're reading it already.
Mhm.
So that's not a good argument. The argument is whether or not you're willing to read it again.
yeah, like how long
Like-
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like, are you willing to read this book?
So I guess if you've read it before, it doesn't matter. It's just you down to read
Yeah.
it. Okay, I like that.
Okay.
And let's continue this talk about like the technicalities of how we'll make the decisions in the chat, because it'll be much easier than like rewatching the video. But
This is our constitution.
Well, if you just give us access to edit the
I did.
art, no, I don't have access.
Oh, you're not logged in. You're anonymous.
Oh man, Pete, you
What
gotta
are you
stop.
talking
Logged
about?
in.
I am totally logged in.
Yeah, I am as well.
I have requested access 3 times now.
request edit access. And
Yeah.
I can't even click that.
Guys, okay. Am I still sharing my screen?
Oh yeah, Thank
yeah,
you.
My screen.
I'm an editor. Thank
We're
you.
all editors. Well, why can't I edit it then?
Here, I'm actually going to remove this
link.
ability
Now this
to
is
view it
this
with-
is this
there we go.
list. Pete goes first after Dune Messiah. Is that what that means? Or are we going to
Yeah.
do the third Dune as well? I guess we can make that decision after Dune Messiah. Is that cool?
I still cannot
Oh.
edit it.
Hang on, Freed.
Trying to renumber the list.
You two are trying to do the same thing at the same time, right?
There you go. You did it.
I can't edit it. I am currently trying to just add in my recommendations of what I want to read.
Close
and-
the window and then open it
Yeah,
again.
what I did was shift
Oh.
refresh, and then
Oh.
it gave me the
Shit.
access.
Should have done that.
Shift
So
refresh.
internet 101, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So
Shift
shift refresh means refresh, but for real this time.
How is that different than F5?
Well, it's
It's-
like
it's-
F5, except you really mean it.
It will delete the cookies for the domain.
Oh,
That's different.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Look at you guys, so smart.
Okay. So chapter 22 is the one we started on, right?
Yeah.
Wait, are we actually starting now?
I think we should.
We need to have a
Okay.
theme, like play the
That's fine.
theme.
Parker's trying to gauge if he needs to grab another beer.
No, I'm drinking rum and coke. But no, I was trying to think about books I want to read. For
I think
my
I have-
subscriptions. I'm
have a-
I'm gonna make a list of the books I want to read.
Mhm.
That way, everybody knows what I want to read, and then I can choose what order I want to read them.
We can pick stuff that you don't want to read.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be fine too.
Well, because I mean, kind of like what Todd said, it's like I feel like I am interested in this to read things that I wouldn't necessarily pick for myself. Also, to put things up, I have a list of things I want to read and that would be applicable or appropriate.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
How long have we been doing this for? When did we start this?
I don't know.
Like 8 weeks
It's-
ago?
Yeah, it's been like a couple of
More
months.
than that.
Like maybe.
Which I think is why we're all ready to just kind of finish this book. Like,
I think October. I think we started in October.
Hey, I want to say that I don't think we talked about chapter 21.
we didn't.
What?
I think that's wrong.
Yeah,
Which
we
one
did.
is?
Yeah, we
What
did.
was
This is the
21?
one where the Baron.
Oh yeah,
This is where he almost dies.
Yeah,
Never
it's
mind.
the
Never mind.
yeah.
All right.
rescinded.
Because it has
So-
that really awesome sequence where Duke actually dies.
Yeah,
We talked about
the-
the Chin.
The flesh the day shapes, and the day the flesh shapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Shift. What do you say? Shift refresh or shift?
Shift F5.
Shift F5 or Shift and click the little button. F5 if you're on Windows.
I be.
Wait, hang on a minute. Is Freed the only one not in Windows currently?
Probably.
I win.
Do you? Do you?
I control my computer, yes, and it doesn't sell my information to Microsoft. I win.
I don't have a camera on my Linux machine because I only have one camera in my entire fucking house.
So I win again.
Sure.
I actually
Except when he wants to like share things because
I can't argue with it.
plugins work on Linux.
Yeah.
my webcam doesn't work in my PC. It only works on my work laptop. So I have to, this is my cell phone.
There you go. You could just be ingenuitive like Flatland over there.
Thank you, Pete.
It was my idea, for the record.
Yeah, he is the one that told me to do it last week. That is correct.
Touche. Okay. So who wants to summarize 22?
22 was long. I gotta like think back to everything that happens in 22.
22 and 23 are both basically Paul freaking out about being the Kwisatz Haderach.
Which is kind of cool.
He's not.
If you're into that sort of thing.
He's not the
Right.
Kwisatz
He
Haderach.
actually
but
says
that's what they
that.
talk
Right.
about.
He says
He
he's like
actually
that.
says-
He's a seed, Pete.
Yeah.
Whether or not
Well,
he is or
He
not,
says he's
isn't
something
relevant.
unexpected.
He's
Currently.
not.
No, he says he's a seed. He goes, I'm a seed.
He does say that. In this fertile sand over here.
Gross.
So
That's some PG-13 shit right there, bro.
chapter 22 is Paul and Jessica have just escaped. Right? And then
They're in the
how do they
still-
survive they use the still tent to survive in the desert.
Which is pretty
That's
cool.
it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Paul has it's not his first time, but his first big like prescient visions from the spice.
Yeah, where he's like, I can see it going this way and that way, and
Right.
Which
Yeah.
have any of you guys ever had like
Spice?
a panic attack where you're thinking about something and you just kind of
The
spiral
geriatrics
into it?
fight.
yeah, I wouldn't say that's what my panic attacks feel like though.
I would say that I've when I was about 8 years old, my parents were talking about eternity in heaven, and I was like, I started like thinking about living forever, and I was like, okay, it's not so bad. And then after thinking about it for a little bit, I was like, oh shit, that means that like nothing
is
ever
why-
ends. And so I spiraled into it, and that's kind of the feeling I got.
This is
Even
why I think the like forever life thing is a bad
Yep.
choice, like
Good.
obvious bad choice.
To be fair, does eternity sound better
Yeah.
when it's not in a religious context?
Thank you.
No, I don't
Yes.
think so.
Yes.
I think it does. Like, I would much rather live forever not in a religious context and just having the ability to learn forever. That
well,
is much more interesting to me than
But do you
But I-
believe that knowledge is an infinite thing?
but if you live forever, then you're gonna outlive the religion anyway. So
Theoretically, in a non-religious sense,
guys,
you believe knowledge is infinite.
we gotta do this afterwards.
Yeah.
yeah,
Put
okay.
a-
All right,
put
all
a
right.
pin-
22,
sorry,
pin
go.
Put a pin in that.
We'll
I
finish,
realize
we'll go back to that.
I contributed to bringing that up, but I think we should bring that up at the end.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
I suppose it was probably my fault because I brought up like how
It
his
is,
panic
you're a dick.
attack made me feel.
Yep.
'Cause it reminded me of that.
I get that though, because you're just like you can see you get like overloaded, right, with possibilities.
You,
So
you
I
can see the cultness.
Chris,
Yeah.
I do want to ask a question, and if you're not comfortable talking about it, that's totally cool. But I've never.
How big is your
never
dick?
experienced. I've never experienced a panic attack personally. I don't think. I have had times in which I feel like my state of mind has been altered based on external stressors. I don't know if that would be defined as an anxiety
I mean,
or a
and
panic attack.
I would say the difference between being like stressed and a panic attack's a physical thing.
Yeah.
Like it gets hard to breathe. I feel it's like you want to run
It's
away
hard to
from
think.
something, but you can't. No, you can't do anything. That's
It's
what
in
it
here.
feels like.
You can't run away
Yeah.
from that shit.
Yeah.
And there was, so I had one as an adult towards the end of my master's degree in computer science, and I legitimately thought I was dying. And my wife I woke my wife up because I was pacing around the room, just like freaking the fuck out. I was like, I'm having a heart attack. I'm dying. And she's like, just calm down. You'll be all right. And eventually I was like, okay, just relax. And she talked me down eventually. And even then, part of my mind was like, well, I'll just die. It'll be fine. And so, but Like it was a legitimately terrifying experience. Like you are not in control of your brain. Like normally I like to think of myself as a rational person. I was not being rational then. I was taking every little thing as like a sign that what I thought was terribly happening to me was real.
Yeah.
So
Did you? So, in my experience, I physically reacted to the mental pictures that I had.
mhm.
Did you have that experience? Like, so I was flailing when I had my
Oh.
panic attack.
Oh, see, I haven't had any of those. That
Oh,
that
yeah.
that actually sounds even scarier.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I don't-
Terrifying.
Yeah, mine's so I had one not that long ago, like because I upped the dosage of one of the medicines that I'm on, and like it was like I kind of felt weird already. And we went to Costco, and it's weird. It's almost kind of like the earthquake that like starts the tsunami type thing.
Mhm.
This guy, I was like getting in line, and this guy goes, "Sir!" Like he yelled at me. He's like, "Can I see your
Hospital card.
yeah?" And like that, I like shook me, and I was like, "Huh," and I was like, "All right." Like I almost like told him to like, "What the fuck, bro?" But like then it just kind of got worse and worse and worse, and I was just like this like anxiety spiral to where I was like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here!" Like,
Yeah.
But
Oh,
but the trigger is like something that you recognize is not really that important. But it
I
still
don't-
like makes you go crazy. You're like, what the fuck?
that's the most recent one. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of unique, I guess, because I was like, that's what did it. Like that's what started it.
Well, and it has to be like that. If it was something real that you should be terrified and freaking out about, it's not a panic attack. That's panic. That's okay. Like,
I don't
panic attack requires that it not be a real
I don't
terrifying.
think it always has to be.
If your plane is crashing and you're like hitting face first into the ground and you are freaking the fuck out, that's not a panic attack. That's
Yeah.
panic, and that's okay.
Because like I had a tooth extraction that put me in actual shock.
Mm.
Like, yeah, it was gnarly. Like they were throwing blankets on me, and I was still like, I'm so cold and like shivering.
My
Yeah.
God.
So like,
Did they do it wrong? Like,
He was crashing.
They took it out through the top of his head. It was a real.
what do you mean by crashing, Parker? I'm
Uh,
curious. Not
if they need to throw blankets on you, it means your body is crashing. So you have pulled all of your blood into the major organs instead of putting it all into your extremities, and so your body starts crashing. And there are terms for it, but in essence, you have unconsciously tried to preserve yourself,
okay.
not at the benefit of your body, though. And,
Oh.
and so, if you allow that just to happen, your extremities will die, and you have all sorts of organ failures. Is typically what happens.
Because there were parts of it where I do not actually remember. Like Christy, I do
sure.
not remember actually getting into my car or getting home, but it was like the last prescient knowledge that I had was that I was just like uncontrollably sobbing and staring at Christy, and she was like kind of laughing because she was like, she's
Well,
like,
you're
totally
probably partly
overreacting.
high.
Yeah, like it probably was something like that. And then the next thing I knew, I was like laying in my bed in my apartment in Bothell, like wrapped up in blankets, still like freezing cold and shivering. And she was like petting my head very lovingly and being like, "It's gonna be okay. I'm right here. Nothing's gonna happen to you."
Did they put
So,
you
like,
under?
No.
What were you on? Were you on nitrous oxide or anything?
Would have been some
They
sort of drug.
just gave me local. They just gave me local.
And you still had that strong of a reaction?
It really local
Wow.
anesthesia doesn't work on me very well.
Oh,
Like,
so you had a huge pain response, and that
you're a
might have.
secret.
Yeah.
He's a
Okay.
redhead.
yeah. Sure, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
But-
redheads, their pain shit's
They have a
fucked up.
lower pain tolerance. Yeah.
a higher pain tolerance.
Higher
no,
pain
is what I've
tolerance.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
But they're also not as susceptible to things like painkillers.
So the reason I asked this is because I kind of associated the fact that Paul goes through this experience in which it's like an extra sensory
Yeah.
Out of body type thing.
out of body
Hyper
type
alertness.
thing. And I
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah, that's-
wondering from all of you, because for me, it didn't feel like it connected Paul to me. It in fact actually dehumanized Paul to me a little bit. But at the same time, as someone who has had a parent that they're they were very close to. Sorry, Pete, that I'm
Rub it in.
group.
Fuck.
But like, there is that initial part where, you know, he talks about the need to mourn his father. And it's interesting because my response when my mom died is I was a wreck. Like, I called Chris and was like, hey man, I need to hang out with you so that way you can like be chill with me. Like, Freed was up in Washington. Parker was, I think, still in San Diego. So I was just like, I need a good friend to just reminisce and talk about. And he was there for me. I don't remember almost anything from that day other than we went to Oliver's and he was there, but that kind of a thing. Whereas Christy, she had a very delayed response. Like, even with her dad, she knew it was coming, but she had this very pragmatic aspect to her, to where she was like, okay, I understand that I need to grieve my dad who died from cancer. So she had more preparation, whereas mine was very sudden, right? Mm-hmm. But even with my mom, who Christy was pretty close to, she still had that probably about a week delay where she was like, okay, we're in crisis mode and somebody's got to kind of man the ship and get things done. And it gave me a chance to like finish my emotional stuff so that way I could move on and then she could kind of try and cope as it went. But that was the thing that actually I noticed from Paul freaking out about the Duke dying at the very end of his time in there when he finally began to mourn Leto. I don't know. I'm not trying to like make a significant point, but that was something that really clicked for me.
Resonated.
Yeah, because like I felt like Paul was very dehumanized, and even though a lot of it he was talking about how he wished he could mourn his dad, how he wished he could be emotionally attached to it.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul, I think his internal monologue is how he knows what he should do as a human, which is to mourn and, you know, feel the feelings. But what he's observing about himself is that he's not doing that.
He's the
I
seed.
thought that was a very human
Yeah.
experience.
Very human. Yeah.
I think this is one of those big chapters of super importance for the character. Well, him
Totally.
specifically.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess her just kind of establishing what their dynamic's going to be like.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the chapter when he tells her the message from Leto. So that's a huge.
There's a lot.
for her.
There's a lot goes down in this chapter. So I'm just going to go
I
through.
resonated a whole lot less with Jessica during this than I did with Paul.
Same.
Like it
you're
I
a
don't
man.
know. It was
You're not wrong. I mean,
true, but no, I just I don't know. It was like a disconnect between Jessica's feelings about her husband dying and not really husband, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I also agree with Freed that like as a person who has lived with 5 women for a long time, they do have different ways of like prioritizing and
I think it might be reductive of her to say that it's because she's a woman that it's like that. Like there's a lot more going on. And I say that not liking her at all. Like because a lot of the reasons that she is the way she is because she's been programmed to do all these things. So
sure.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is it probably takes a little bit more work to try to understand her point of view, given that she's a woman and you're not a woman, than it is to get in Paul's head because like you were a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah. Not only that, but I don't think any of us can. Oh, sorry.
I was hatched as a 30-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that another part of it could also potentially be the fact that none of us have had a significant other die, right? Like, I don't know. We may have had peers that have passed away suddenly. I don't think it's the same.
I mean, that gets in. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think if you extend your point, Todd, that you could also just make it to be like you can't really understand someone else if you haven't lived through the experience that they lived through.
True.
Do you think that? That would be the conclusion of your line of thought.
I think that though there are similarities, truthfully, you cannot fully experience it. But I do think that the connection and the resonance, there might be a disconnect because of that, right?
I just think it is a little harder. It takes a little more work, but you can understand, I think. Not.
I mean, you can terms, right? Understand versus like empathize with.
Yeah, that's true.
Similar but different, maybe.
You can empathize. You can empathize with someone. I think so.
That's why it's always weird when something like that happens and you're like, I don't feel right telling them, but I know how you feel, and like, you know what I mean, or I understand what you're.
Yeah.
I don't think that you ever really understand, but my problem with Jessica was like she spends time like thinking about Paul being the Kwisatz Haderach rather than like what the fuck just happened.
I got bullet points, dude. I got bullet points.
Okay, go.
Oh yeah,
hit it.
I'm just gonna start at the beginning, and then so let's see. So pretty much right away, where he says, let's see. Oh yeah. So here is where I said like the example of show and tell done well and done, in my opinion, poorly. And after reading the whole thing, it kind of steps back a little bit because it's kind of this like this whole thing is like this burst of understanding. So taking it through that lens, it kind of I'm like, all right, I guess maybe it's not so much a bad or good example, but this is kind of what I thought. So where he says, see, something had happened to his awareness this night, but it culminates with he says it was Mentat power and more, right? So there's the first one. And then on the very next page, remembering the letter at the top, remembering the letter, Paul re-experienced the distress of that moment, a thing sharp and strange that seemed to happen outside his new mental alertness. He had read that his father was dead, known the truth of the words, but had felt them as no more than another datum to be entered in his mind and used. There again, it's like kind of the same thing as saying it was like Mentat power and more, but it's showing you how it's working. And to me, that's way more effective. Again, stepping back and considering the whole thing. Very just an observation, more than a gripe or anything.
Yeah, but I think it's also telling that he's going over the same thing multiple times. So even though it may seem like a Mentat thing, there's obviously something that's causing him to reevaluate it multiple times. I think
he's emotionally hung up on it, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so even though he's not like feeling it, really, like
still dealing with it.
Yeah.
And there is more going on with Paul in this universe than just being a Mentat, or even being the best Mentat ever, or whatever. Like he also has the race consciousness coming in.
Right.
Let's see. So here, there's a block. This is kind of where I was like, there's a lot of shit. This chapter is dense with things about like the prophecy and like, because here it says, but he felt no let up in the cool precision of his being. He sensed that his new awareness was only beginning, that it was growing. Sense of terrible purpose. There you go. He first experienced it in his ordeal with the Reverend Mother, pervaded him his right hand. So is this what it is to be the Kwisatz Haderach? So it's interesting that even in this chapter, he thinks that, and then he goes through and kind of realizes that he doesn't think he is, right?
Yeah.
Well, but he also accuses Jessica. He's like,
yes, that was
didn't want a son. You wanted
honestly. I think that is one of the most real parts of this book that I think so far, because so much of this to me does not feel like a real human interaction. That did.
Yeah.
I feel like Paul has always felt real, whereas the rest of the characters kind of feel not so much.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I haven't felt like that there hasn't. I don't feel like there's been that much poor character writing in this book.
I didn't say that. It's just not as much. Like Leto seems developed. There you go. Yui for certain is underdeveloped. Like
Yui sucks.
He's a hollow character, in my opinion.
He totally is.
Yeah.
I do think that the characters are like they all have these thoughts and like these plots and all this stuff, but the interactions between them are so colored by that to me it could just be me being like, I kind of don't care about these people because of that. But I would say that those interactions there's no warmth. Like it's like an anal or a digital world. Like it's
except with Paul, right? Like Paul seems to be the only one that's real to me.
But is that necessarily unrealistic if we're talking about a bunch of royalty people interacting with each other?
I don't know. I've never fucking met that royalty.
But like they would have real thoughts and stuff inside, but they have all of these forms and things they have to abide by. So it complicates their interactions and forces them to be more cool than warm.
Yeah, you could be right.
Yeah, you totally could be.
Or I could be chugging a cock. So what's next?
Yeah, I mean,
the book sounds like Pete to me.
After that.
So right after that, here's an example of the in the mind thing that I just don't like. On some level, it's interesting, but like I know I've said this before, but it's interesting because it happens so close. where he said, okay, he was everything we thought him and more, Paul said, and he thought, why is she so slow seeing things? Okay, then like literally a paragraph later, she says it must not be left to chance. And she thought blackmail with the family atomics is a threat to the planet and its spice. That's what he has in mind. But all he can hope for then is escape into renegade anonymity. I just don't like that kind of storytelling, I think, is what I've realized. Like, I'd rather you tell the story instead of like shaving off these little thoughts to build up into a pile that maybe tells a story. Like, that's kind of what it feels like to me. And sometimes it feels necessary, and sometimes I'm like, you could do that a different way. I don't know, but so many of those moments I don't love.
I would say that tactic is used regularly in this book, and if it's not your thing, it's going to bother you for sure. I like it.
Well,
yeah, shocked? Are you surprised, Flatland?
no, I mean, like, I'm very much of the mentality, like what you like doesn't mean it has to resonate with me.
Right, exactly.
'Cause
I agree with that.
I am very much. I don't know. Sometimes I'm torn on that because at the same time, real life is that way. Like sometimes there are things that come up that don't end up meaning anything, and sometimes there are things that are given.
I think
Closed
so.
import
And don't let me talk for Chris, but don't let me talk for you, Chris. But I think that Chris would say, then why add it to a book which is supposed to tell a story, and not like clean it up?
If I was just like going hard aggro against the book, maybe, but like to like realistically paint the picture, I guess if you're trying to do that, like
Yeah,
it could be like overly complicated because people are overly complicated. I don't know. To me, I don't love that, and it's not even necessarily like, I would say bad writing or bad form or anything. To me, from like when I'm reading a story or something, those little things they're almost like he's throwing breadcrumbs in my face, and I'm like, dude, just let me read your book. Like, please stop. Like,
okay. Get out of the way and let me enjoy this.
or like, don't do it as much. Maybe, I don't know.
Too many
And
crumbs.
it's interesting that it's multiple characters. Like, that's definitely like batting for the fences type thing. But I think it complicates it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a problem with the. Well, I guess. What do you have next, Chris? Because I'm going to go to the end of the chapter.
Oh, you're good.
Is where I'm shooting at.
I have like 7 more things in this chapter, but you're good. I put a sticker on here, and I need to find exactly where it is on the page, so you're good.
Well, so I have this problem, and maybe I just totally missed it, but there's the paragraph where Paul like tells Jessica that they are Harkonnens, and it seems like totally out of nowhere. Like, I don't quite get how Paul figures it out.
He tells you.
Read the. Is it the one where he says you're the Baron's own daughter? He said, and watch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep reading right around that. He says he saw the document. He's been there.
Yeah.
In the future.
There was also the moment.
Yeah, but
There was also the moment earlier where he noticed some details about her face. Focus on the dim outline of her face. Certain gene traces in her facial structure were noted in the new way by his on-flowing mind, the clues added to other data, and a final summation answer put forward. I think that's the moment when he figures it out.
oh,
But then he also says he's been there and he's seen the
yeah,
document.
no, I
and he knows
know, but
exactly.
it's just so weird of a revelation that it like doesn't really click with me. Like,
yeah,
Really?
it doesn't. Although I didn't get that previous. I didn't make that connection to the previous.
To me, that seems like the
Paragraph.
most important piece of information to give her at that time, besides the fact that her husband's dead. That'd be like the next most important thing to her life, I think.
What would he have been
I don't
to her?
really
Her
understand the purpose of
consort?
that.
Or no? What would he be to her? Because it wasn't her husband.
Wait,
Baron Harkonnen or
Oh, sorry.
You're talking about.
Leto is not her husband, but I call her.
No,
I'm not even trying to correct you. I just am curious. Like, what would you call him to her? What is she to him? Like, she's his consort or concubine, but what is he?
Right.
An owner.
Ooh, there's a word for that.
There's got to be, right?
Yeah, there has to be.
Like the harem holder, the
Harem lord.
Yeah.
the steer.
Oh yeah,
Babe,
what we gotta
bowl.
find out now.
I'm gonna tell my wife that's what I want to be called from now on.
The bowl.
Ew,
The stud?
yeah. The stud. No.
No,
No.
no.
I love that.
All right,
though.
now I
Great.
need to find that previous
Yeah,
paragraph.
I'm googling frantically.
Don't Google stud. Don't do that.
Go, go, go.
Wait, Reed, where was that other paragraph? I know we don't have the same pages, but in reference to
It's
Oh.
in my book it's 2 pages prior.
okay.
Paul says, "What have you done to me?" He demanded. And
Okay,
then in a burst
yeah.
of clarity, I gave birth to you. It's the next paragraph.
That didn't even like pop out to me as a reference to the Harkonnen bloodline. I don't know. I just kind of read over it.
To be honest, I didn't like recognize what Freed had noticed either.
Yeah, like
Yeah, my hyper computation, I was detached from
He's
my
a-
awareness.
The man had abilities.
I just assimilated all the pieces
your
and it, like,
meta abilities.
it clicked in a final moment of computation.
Okay.
Yeah.
This right here is why I love doing the slow read. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Because,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I kind of am tired of reading it so slowly.
I'm tired of this tantric exercise. Sometimes I just want to finish.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Gross.
okay, all right. Well,
Yuck.
he says,
Yuck. Yuck.
I
But
could have made it gross.
I mean, do you? Never mind.
We're still in the chapter.
Yes. So what else? What else
Well,
happened? in
at this
chapter two?
point,
I
my
didn't
drink's
actually-
empty, so I'll be right back.
I'm gonna jump
didn't-
back.
Okay,
That's cool.
Okay.
please.
I just so on page 237 for me, this is where he's told her, he says, "My father charged me once with blood." It's okay. So she brushed the tears coursing down her cheeks, thought, "What a stupid waste of the body's water." But she knew this thought for what it was, the attempt to retreat from grief and anger. Leto, my Leto, she thought, what terrible things we do to those we love. My sticker's over whatever that says. Something of violent motion. She extinguished the little manual's glow tab. Sob shook her. I feel like, and here again, I can see your side of it where it's like she's a complex person. But I wrote down robot versus human emotion versus calculating. Don't expect me to give a shit after all you've built up into being this like robotic thing. Like I just don't. I find it hard to empathize with her. Like,
All I can say is that I disagree yet again, Chris. I
Right.
actually really liked that part.
yeah. There you go. Let's see. So okay, 7. Okay. They talk about him maybe being the Kwisatz Haderach, but it's like, haven't they said that he has to take that medicine to do it? Isn't that a part of it?
He's not the Kwisatz
He's
Haderach.
not. But
He
they
says
don't.
it in this chapter too.
He does. But there's a point in here where I think she says something.
where
let's
did I
see.
miss that?
He says
Last-
again. He's like, "I'm not that. I'm
last
something
page.
else."
Last page, you're thinking I'm the Kwisatz Haderach. She said, "Put that out of your mind. I'm something unexpected."
Right.
Okay.
Let's see. 8. Okay, this is where you were talking, right? Where she says, "I gave birth to you." This whole part, let go
Yeah.
of me. She heard the iron in his voice, obeyed. I like this a lot,
Love this
just
part.
because it felt like a real interaction between a mother and her son.
Mhm.
No posturing or anything like that.
Mhm.
9. Let's see. Okay, I only have a couple more. Oh yeah, this is interesting too because I know we talked about the geriatric spice before, but they mention it here and it's like italicized. He says, "You must calm yourself." She said, "If there's the spice," he said, "it's in everything here: the air, the soil, the food." The geriatric spice. It's like the truth sayer drug. It's a poison. What does the geriatric have to do with anything? Like I know we kind of talked about it, and it was like, well, it could mean like the whole time thing,
So,
but
I think in this context, it's referencing the fact that the spice is so addictive that it is now a poison that you cannot stop taking. So it like prolongs your life. That's geriatric, but you become dependent upon it as well.
but he's just saying like, we're hooked and we're gonna be
Yeah,
here forever.
now we're trapped here on this planet
I guess that makes
because
sense.
of the spice. Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
really liked that shortly after that he goes into like because of what he's been trained to do with his brain and stuff, that he can bring about that like people who have a ton of spice, they all have this, but he brings it about into his consciousness because he's been trained to, and it's really cool. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. I'm a seed.
In this fertile land, I think he says too.
He suddenly saw how fertile was the ground into which he had fallen.
Yeah.
The terrible purpose filled him. There's the terrible purpose again.
Yeah, but they never quite
Yeah.
explain what his terrible purpose is.
Yeah.
So okay, on
They-
241,
they've always like pulled it as a string this entire time.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like,
sorry,
when-
Chris,
What now?
Mm.
Oh
you started something. I cut you off.
no, on so 241. This is kind of they're still talking. Let's see. They're talking about the spice. He said, "We're trapped here." She agreed. Okay, and there's here she's thinking. So we live out our lives. She thought on this hell planet, the place is prepared for us if we can evade the Harkonnens. And there's no doubt of my course. A broodmare preserving an important bloodline for the Bene Gesserit plan. Like to me, there's that cognitive dissonance again, where she's like,
Right.
She says later too, where she's like, I now will be subservient to Paul and do that. It's like, bitch, like pick a side, like pick something and stick with it. Like,
Yeah.
and again, you could argue
Side.
she's a complicated lady, but I don't know, that to me that doesn't help in like understanding or feeling for her character. It just annoys me
Right.
because it's at opposite sides of it. It's like, okay, are you either going to shepherd your embryo, or are you going to have
Right.
your sons back? Are you going to report back to the Bene Gesserit and tell them about the breeding thing? Like,
See,
Well-
I read that line as she's realizing reluctantly that that's going to be her role.
Oh,
You know, she kind of, in a sense, regrets it, but you know, she's going to go through with it, and she knows she has to, and stuff like
It
that.
does seem, yeah, I'd agree with that, because you wouldn't really call yourself a breedmare,
Broodmare.
broodmare,
Broodmare, yeah.
in a positive way. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just here to
Speak for
breed.
yourself, Pete.
Little
Just kidding. I'm
where
getting
she's so the whole like only to serve thing, where she says only to serve, she whispered, cling to the Bene Gesserit motto. I like that and I hate it because it's complete bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So if he's satirizing something, that's great. But if he's not, then I hate that because that's kind of like she's clinging to the last vestige of her belief or whatever. right?
How would you know if he's satirizing something?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
I can
Like-
say in the biography of Frank Herbert, he wasn't a religious person, but he didn't necessarily he wasn't atheist, but he didn't like religions for the most part, and he didn't like religious people.
I think that really great books don't have a message that you can clearly pick out and see this is what the author's trying to tell me. They have a construct that you can pull things out of that stand out to you or whatever. So if you want to read that as like he's satirizing the organization,
I guess,
that says only, you know what I mean? He put that there, and it allows you to
Sure.
get that meaning.
Because to me, if that's the choice, I'm like, all right, get it, because there's almost no way that like her thinking that it's like only to serve. She's clinging to it. We exist only to serve. It's like,
Yeah,
you're still there. Like that's where she's at. Like, okay, I find that almost wholly unbelievable that she would still be like, I don't know.
So
that
you-
just,
you think of
particularly
like
in that circumstance, right?
yes, like after all this has happened, then she goes back to that, and it's like you could argue, well, she's clinging to her thing, but it's like, is she though? Is she a mom? Because she says she loves Paul and she's dedicated to her family, but she's also a Bene Gesserit and dedicated to that. She's having this kid. That's what she was ordered. Like, it's this spider web of shit, and there's no real person in there. Like, who is Jessica? Who is Jessica? I don't know.
So basically, if you're rephrasing, you're saying that in the magnitude of this event that has happened and destroyed her life, it should have shooken her so much that she gave up on her core.
I don't. It's kind of similar to how no one was like, maybe it's the doctor. Like, she's like, maybe that's not real.
I'm saying, or is it when you go under that extreme stress, that's when you cling most tightly to this belief system that you've used your whole life?
Oh yeah, sure. I
Maybe.
I agree, but I don't. If that's like her, I don't know. If that's really what she's doing in that moment, I don't know. That makes me like her even less.
Sure, and that's fine. But I would also say that because of the challenges she's going through right now could easily be interpreted to be part of the whole plan of the Bene Gesserit. So it's not like it's conflicting, and it's something that would cause her to doubt, is what I'm saying. You
Sure.
could easily just go, yeah, this fits in with everything I've been taught my entire life. But if it was like let's say I was Mormon and Thor came down and was like, I'm gonna smite you with lightning unless you believe in me, I'd be like, well, shit.
I mean,
You'd be
He
like,
is
angels are real.
He is. I will give you that. Like, she is characterized as a conflicted person very, very well. But so far there's no. She never chooses. She doesn't do anything. Like, she doesn't take agency at all. Like, she's just in this thing, and it's like all these things. And I'm interested.
I would agree with
see
that. Like,
wh-
what
where
in this entire book has she done? Has she
Like,
ever like caused changes?
where that
She-
goes
she-
for the rest
she
of
tried. She tried when she discovered that they were accusing her of being the traitor. She immediately took action to go get through for Hawat right now. I'm going to take care of this right this second. Now,
That's-
events spiraled out of control, and there was the assassination like right after that.
Yeah,
But I felt like that was a very decisive moment for her.
that's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair.
I'd agree with
Appreciate.
But that also is like, I mean, okay, but it's like on the scale of things that she could act on, that seems kind of inconsequential. Like,
that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Such as
It was
Well,
actually
like,
pretty
if-
core to Leto.
I suppose. I don't know.
she chose where to hang the bull head, which room to hang that in.
I mean, you could
Did she
also
really
make the
choose?
argument she also chose to have Paul. Like, it takes place before, but
True.
that's a choice she made.
Well, or did she?
Did you hear about her motivations though? It wasn't necessarily. Some of it, I think, was because she wanted to have the Quetzal Tataract, but I think that it was also mostly because
Please,
she
Leto.
she liked Leto and Leto wanted one. So
She wanted to be a good
I-
consort.
I question that motivation though. Like I can't. She shows far more, I guess, conviction towards the Bene
You-
Gesserit schooling than she does
you-
towards Leto.
I think
I would disagree with that.
Freed, I think Freed brings up a great point where it's like looking at it, like I'm looking at this as a man, like looking at this view from like the woman's
As
perspective.
a man,
I think that's a huge part of it. Like, and I
Valid
think
point,
that's like I have a harder time, like, because that's totally unknown to me, but I can empathize with it, I guess. I do think that if from just the complex, conflicted, I mean, that definitely gets across. Okay, I have like two more
And
things.
I would say that like Tyrell, she is far more loyal to Leto than she is to the Bene Gesserits.
I would
She
agree
would
with
have
that.
she would have done almost anything, including like leaving the Bene Gesserit order for Leto, I think.
But that's
I generally
your
have that feeling also, but it's not really clear.
right. Like, that's your saying. That's, to me, that's what that means. But what does she do to put that across? Like, she doesn't do anything.
Still,
Having a son was
Having
directly
a
against the
son.
orders.
Okay, but that's
1000%.
also, but the earlier in the book, the Reverend
it-
Mother's like, had that kid, right? Huh?
It can be
Quit that?
construed as,
Like-
as trying to further the Bene Gesserit cause because you're trying to make the Kwisatz Haderach. Like,
yeah,
so
okay.
it's not clear. That's my point. Is it's not
Mm,
clear.
I feel like
That's
that
really where she is.
that's what makes her a good character, I think.
Mm.
Well,
If it was obvious and clear and it was just A to B to C, I
sure,
would be bored.
sure.
I would be bored of that character.
Agreed. But it's I don't know.
But I feel like she's
struggle with
like
it.
a squared to the fourth root 5, and then there's no solution. Like, that's what-
Tangent of
yeah.
I don't know what you just said, but yes,
I don't do math, bro. I don't know.
I don't. I don't
Free just taught his son math. Let's get into it.
so,
So
minor in math.
243. I actually really there was a, and what's funny to me is in this book there would be like separated by sometimes like one line, a part that I'm like, ugh, and then a part where I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, and this is interesting. I don't know if you guys talked about this when I was looking for it, but she says you shouldn't. Okay, hold on now. Okay, the Harkonnens, he sneered, put those twisted humans out of your mind. He stared at his mother, studying the lines of her face in the light of the glow tab. The lines betrayed her. She said you shouldn't refer to people as humans without. And he goes, don't be so sure you know where to draw the line. He said, we carry our past with us, and mother mine. I like that he starts calling her that. There's a thing you don't know, and we should wear Harkonnens, right? I don't know. That goes back to the whole human versus animal thing, I feel like, where he's like, don't be so sure you know the difference between that and people.
What was the end of that sentence going to be, by the way?
What did she say? You shouldn't refer to people as humans without, I don't know, without like
yeah, I
giving
think-
him the Blade Runner test or whatever. I don't know.
yeah. I think she
The void comp test.
wants that Gom Jabbar test for defining who's human, because that's how she's always done it. And he's like, but to be honest, I disagree with him here. I don't think the Harkonnens are humans by the definition they used early in the book.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. Either.
Interesting.
I think they're mostly animals.
So you know that. So I just watched The Matrix. You know that part where Mouse says, "To deny our own impulses is to deny the very thing that makes us human." I
Yeah.
disagree with that wholeheartedly. Where it's like denying our own impulses is what makes us human and separates us from
That is the
animals.
argument of the Bene Gesserits, right?
And that's what the Bene Gesserit say, and that's
Yeah.
how it's been defined in this book so far. And I don't know why he's using a different definition.
So you're saying the Wachowskis stole that directly from Frank?
That's what I'm saying. It's
It's very likely they have read this book.
Oh, 1,000%.
The last thing I had in this chapter was like the penultimate page, and he says, "You're thinking I'm the Quetzalcoatl." He said, "Put that out of your mind." That's what you said, right? But then she says, "I must get word out to one of the schools." She thought the mating index may show what has happened. Yeah,
She
dude,
doesn't
it's like-
believe him. She doesn't believe him.
Right. So there, I guess that makes more sense. I was just like, dude, either like love your kid or be a Bene Gesserit. Like,
Well, the next line is even better in my opinion. Like, they won't learn about me until it's too late. Like,
Yes.
Paul at that point just knows. Like,
Yep.
they fucked up.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
he is like solidified his resolve about all the fucked up shit that they've done in the Empire at this point, and said,
and
"Fuck them."
I think you can.
I
you
love
could-
that.
You could certainly argue where it's like, well, maybe you just don't like complexity in this, but I feel like there's a difference between like complexity that is easily parsable and makes sense, and whatever the fuck this is. Because to me, this does not feel like clear. I don't know. Maybe
So I agree with you. It's not entirely clear, but I think that it's also not clear to Paul
Sure.
entirely.
I don't know that I
Good point.
necessarily agree with that, because like you go on further, and Paul at this point basically seems omniscient, where he's like,
No,
"Jessica, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
he's not omniscient. He does see certain
No,
paths
I know
very
he's
clearly.
not. He just acts like it
Well,
at this
sure.
moment, where he's
Yeah.
like, "You're fucking wrong. You don't even understand what's going on right now."
Right.
You know, it's a weird like flipping of that whole entire script of the mother-daughter or mother-son thing
Yeah.
that like is kind of crazy.
He's got a couple of paths ahead of him that are really clear, and I don't think he chooses either of them. I think he picks something else
True.
that is more fuzzy.
Well, and that's apparent in the next couple paragraphs where he's like, I saw two main branchings. In one, he confronted an evil old baron and said, "Hello, grandfather." Like,
He didn't like that one. He wasn't going to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, does it end where he's like the other side is jihad, and like the jihad just spread the like the intermixing of the races or whatever? That's in one of the later chapters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that part was awesome.
I was like, damn.
I love these last two chapters so much, because like Jessica was in power this entire time, and all of a sudden Paul's just like, "Fuck you, you don't know what the hell's going on."
Paul has,
Yeah, totally flips it. And like
well, I actually
I don't-
is flipped it the right way, because I don't.
I
I mean,
don't
he
know.
certainly assumed control, but I don't feel like he like took it away from her.
well, like she says, "I don't understand you, Paul."
Yeah.
He-
I see it more like
Silence
the apprentice
about
has
it.
become the master.
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
good way to say it.
Totally.
So it's not like he's getting rid of her. He's not like dominating
Right.
her. It's just now she's realizing, oh, he's beyond me all of a sudden.
And
Well-
he's realizing that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. He also makes a comment, which I can't find right now, where he's like, "Well, your Bene Gesserit's like set the path for us, so let's go do that." Like, this is your fault, but I'm gonna take advantage. And I love that part also.
Yeah.
And I wish I could find it.
So we're into
Because
23.
he's basically saying you guys manipulated us into the situation
Yeah.
I'm in.
He's like,
Not just-
"I-
Not just
I'm
us, but
your
the entire
fault."
fucking planet.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he's calling her out. He's like,
Right,
You
and he's-
did this. Now
He's realizing he's over here in this shitty scenario.
Yeah.
But if he plays his cards right, he could have the best military in the universe
Yeah.
and take over everything. So he's gonna make the best of it. I think it's great.
Well, especially
Yeah,
because he's like, put that out of your mind. I am something unexpected. Like, he
Yeah.
admits that he's not the Quetzalcoatl. He's
Yeah.
unexpected. He's something else. He's
The
To be honest,
unexpected
I
scene.
did
love that
not. I didn't notice that in other readings of this book.
No one likes unexpected seed.
It's true.
No one.
no one.
I mean, not me.
Don't kink shame. Some people might.
All right.
Put the keys in the basket.
Okay, so should we move on to 23?
Yeah, I only have a couple. I have
Twenty-
fewer. for the
23 is
next two.
part of book 2.
It
Yeah.
is.
I mean,
Which
we're
is-
saying we're reading to the end of book 2 next time.
Yeah, but I think we should still do the chapters we talked about doing today.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
What deep? See,
That
look
is
at
what we talked about while you were teaching your son math.
I mean,
How did that go?
Very good.
see, first thing I had. It's
What's
just
the
another.
summary of 23? Does anybody remember?
It's just more discussion,
Yeah.
and they're in the tent. I think maybe like it's night
Yeah.
and day, and then they crawl out of the tent. Is that what happens?
And then at
And-
the end of the chapter is when they start running from the Harkonnens that are strafing the desert, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Paul and
I did-
Jessica emerge from the sphincter of the tent.
Dude,
Mm.
no, that's
Like-
that is.
Like Ace Ventura.
Oh
like-
yes.
I liked
Great reference.
all the stuff with like the technology around the sand and like the sand compression thing that they use. I thought that was
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but it's not a lot to talk about.
No,
It's
no.
true.
All right.
So
It adds depth and it makes the world seem real.
It
Like,
does,
I
but
like
it.
it.
makes for a
I like it.
terrible conversation.
and it's not. He didn't. I mean, that's one where he didn't use some term that I have to look up and not find in the glossary to tell what the fuck's he talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So 251.
Is there
Yeah.
is there anything interesting really that we need to talk about in that chapter? Is I guess where I'm trying to go to.
Well, I have
don't
one.
remember.
I have one gripe about her internal dialogue, and then I have something that I liked. That's what I have in this chapter.
All right, go for it.
Lay it on us.
Do you want me to just skip my gripes about that? Because I know I. gripe.
No. Great.
No, it's
Do
fine.
it.
Do it all. Do it all.
You should never hold back, Chris.
Never.
So
A safe space, Chris.
his voice came from the vicinity of the tent sphincter, which was hilarious. Her Bene
Wait, that's your gripe, or is that your
no.
comment?
That's
Like,
just that's the lead in. We're going into the through the sphincter.
lead into the sphincter. Got
Her
it.
Bene Gesserit training sensed in his tone an unresolved bitterness toward her. I was like, wow, you really need your Bene Gesserit training to sense that? Like,
Yeah.
Maybe she
Oh.
doesn't rely on her
No, but I was just
very
like,
much.
come on,
Yeah.
Jessica, you're better than that.
Yeah.
All
It'd
his
be like
life-
me, it'd be like me saying, "Oh, my logical deduction is saying my teenage daughter is upset at me right now."
Yeah,
That's
she's mad
you
that I
don't
took her
need that
keys
shit.
away. Like,
How about you just say you're a fucking parent?
yeah.
Okay, this is in her
Yeah.
mind now. All his life, he has been trained to hate Harkonnen. She thought now he finds he is Harkonnen because of me. How little he knows me. I just thought that was such an interesting jump that I don't know made sense to me because she immediately starts thinking about herself. It's like, it's my fault. He doesn't know me. And
Right.
then she says, I was my Duke's only woman. I accepted his life and his values, even to defy my Bene Gesserit orders. But that's not entirely true because the old lady was kind of down with her trying to do the thing.
She
So-
wasn't down with it. She was mad.
No, she wasn't. She totally is like, hey, I know. Like, I'm mad, but hey.
You
know,
recall this totally differently than what's written
we
in
can
the
go
book.
back right now.
She wasn't.
says it.
She wasn't
She
like, remember that
addresses it.
time you had a boy? That was cool, right?
No, she
She
was.
doesn't
She's
do
like,
that.
she's like, I'm gonna be mad, but not really mad because everybody kind of wants that. That's how it went down.
No, she wanted him to fail.
No, that's
She was
not what
like-
I remember.
She was there ready to kill.
Gaius Helen Moham did not want Paul to fail.
She
I do not
did. She
believe
even said she did. She made him go through it way worse than she'd ever done for any girl.
True.
Some skirt.
That is a fact.
The thing that I loved, let's see, pass the pack up. Oh yeah, I thought this description was amazing. This is where they're crawling out of the tent. Here, he said he reached down, pulled the pack to the surface. Now she saw only the circle of stars. They were like the luminous tips of weapons aimed down at her. A shower of meteors crossed her path of night, or her patch of night. The meteors seemed to her like a warning, like tiger stripes, like luminous grave slats clabbering her blood. I don't actually know what the fuck that means. And she felt the chill of the price on their heads. I don't know. I love that though. I thought that was great.
It was a little artsy for me, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know what luminous grave slats. Okay, clabbering her blood. I don't.
Yeah.
That was
What
art.
does that even mean?
That was artsy for you.
Yeah. Like, why are you saying it that way? Why don't you just say what you mean? Fuck.
Last thing I had in that page 253, Jessica followed automatically, noting how she now lived in her son's orbit. For now is my grief heavier than the sands of the seas. She thought, this world has emptied me of all but the oldest purpose, tomorrow's life. I live now for my young duke and the daughter yet to be. Now, this is at the end of the chapter, and I haven't read much further, so maybe that's what she embraces. But again, this is kind of counter to the other things she's thinking about with Bene Gesserit stuff. So anyway.
More importantly, this was the only comment that I had about this entire chapter. Like, I live now for my young duke and the daughter yet to be. What about like your old life and like the Bene Gesserits and like, so you just in one night like change your entire fucking perspective?
Give her time. She's gonna care.
Well, I don't.
Bene
Again,
Gesserit too.
I know, but it's just so like
I gotta wait and
kind of-
see. But to me, it's like that's kind of in line with her where she pinballs around.
Yeah.
And the more that I
kind of
discuss this with you,
interpreted-
Pete, it is sort of pretty realistic, I guess, of her. I don't know. I still don't like her.
I kind of interpreted that more as like she understands that now that the Harkonnens have destroyed House Atreides, she now doesn't have that greater responsibility, that external need, for lack of a better term, I guess.
but she's still Bene Gesserit.
True, but her
And in
being
the
Bene
previous
Gesserit,
chapter, she was like overly Bene Gesserit, and now she's like,
Again, I disagree with you on the fact that she's overly Bene Gesserit. I think that she is like more rebellious of a Bene Gesserit than most.
she wanted
But-
to report Paul to the Bene Gesserits.
When was that?
No, it will
Last
not report
chapter.
Paul.
But
Not really report. Report's the wrong word, but like tell them about him. I mean,
Well,
what
yeah.
word would you use? Report sounds good.
Well, I mean, when was she doing that though? What before the start of the book? Is it when the
No, in the last chapter, she says, "Oh shit." Okay, I would have to find it again.
okay?
But she said something along the lines of like, "I need to tell the breeding program about Paul." Essentially,
Oh, I thought she was talking about looking at the breeding program to see where she like her lineage, but
she
okay.
also says that.
Okay.
Actually, I think that's in the beginning of this chapter. I totally could be fucked up. Also, by the way.
I don't think you are, because I kind of
You kind of remember that, right? Like in the
I
last
kinda do.
chapter.
yeah.
Okay. I don't remember her going, I need to warn the Bene Gesserits, or I need to let the Bene Gesserits know that my
Okay, in
son
the last
is...
chapter, she says, "I must get word out to one of the schools." She thought the mating index may show what has happened.
Yes.
Right after
Okay.
Paul says, "You're thinking I'm the Kwisatz Haderach." Put that out of your mind. I'm something unexpected.
Okay.
And then in the next chapter, she says, so in the chapter we're in now, she
So
says,
can I just hold you hold your thought?
yeah.
I don't see that as her like warning the Bene Gesserits. That's more like her trying to understand what Paul is. So
Well,
that's how I read that.
Not really warning, just like reporting about Paul. Like
That's not how I heard that. It
It-
sounded like she wanted more information, not like she was trying to provide information.
She says, I must get word out.
yeah,
Okay, but why?
I don't know. But I mean, word out means that she's not collecting word. Like
Sure, but
not a
but
argument.
it
of,
sounds like
I
it was
need
to
get more
understand
info.
what happened with Paul. It didn't sound like it was like to get Paul in trouble or to warn anybody.
No,
I must
don't
request the
think it was
mating index so that I can understand what has happened with Paul.
See, that's how I see it.
But that's not what's in the
So-
book. I'm saying,
So
How is it in the book though?
here's what it is in the book. I must get word out to one of the schools, she thought. The mating index may show what has happened.
Yeah, so maybe her word out was to get information, not to tell about Paul.
maybe, but
That because it doesn't make sense any other way.
why not
It's
just
like,
say like I need to request information from the mating whatever the fuck
Index.
mating index. There you go.
like
I
it's
need
the,
to
like,
request
the
info from the
S&P
mating index.
500.
So
I
can
need to tell my wife about this mating index.
So I can understand, right? She's not asking about like so I can understand. She says, so Freed, read it again. You have it still pulled up? Shit.
One more time.
I must get word out to one of the schools, she thought. The mating index may show what has happened.
May show.
So this is like, the Second
Yeah.
Amendment. If you read it one way, it can mean one thing, and if you read it another way, it can mean something entirely different. Like,
Why would they put in the comma, Pete, if they didn't want it to mean something?
commas don't mean shit. Commas mean a pause. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oxford commas are
That is-
bullshit.
that-
Like commas are totally. I'm just.
How
kidding.
dare
It's
you.
not.
I'm
that's
not-
wrong.
Promise
I'm
me
not-
not bullshit.
I'm
That
not.
is That is wrong.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're about to be banned from the chat.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I
dare
understand
you.
that. Look, some commas matter. Not all commas matter, but some commas matter.
There are good commas on both sides.
Very good. Yeah.
Sorry, let's get back to the book.
So I went back and reread the old lady talking. I think I may be projecting what I think on that, but
Or
I
3,
do-
4 or whatever.
well, that she's not entirely anti her having a son, but I do think it's there. I mean, she says, what you did, Jessica, and why you did it, we both know. But kindness forces me to tell you there's little chance your lad will be the Bene Gesserit totality. You mustn't let yourself hope too much. Like, she's totally friendly toward her for doing this, like, thing that she should be, like, killing her for doing.
Well, she's friendly because she's so close to Jessica, not because
Right.
it's against the Bene Gesserits.
I think that I maintain.
Wait, what do you maintain?
That I think it's just another layer of like wishy-washy shit where it's like, how dare you go against us?
Yeah.
But I guess you could be like, well, she did it and there's nothing we can do about it now, so maybe he'll have the gene. Like,
That's true.
I mean, that was
they
kind
never
of the
really
argument with
considered.
So that is kind of the argument meant after he passes the test, right? Like, oh well, I pressed him really fucking hard and he didn't die, so I guess he might have a chance.
maybe he's valuable.
But they never really
Yeah.
considered the fact that he could be like super awesome and powerful and yet hurt the Bene Gesserits. They never considered that, I don't think.
Well, no, especially I think that is very apparent once Paul says, "I am not the Kwisatz Haderach. I am something else." Like that is, and I don't think that I really took in that sentence in my previous reads. Like that is powerful.
Yeah.
In saying
That
like,
right there is
fucked
core to the rest of the stories after
Yeah.
the book too.
yeah, I always read this as like he was just he was Kwisatz Haderach. Like you never really question it, but he specifically tells you like I'm not.
He's not a
I'm something else, and you
strong-
guys fucked up. And
In
I'm
no
gonna
uncertain
destroy you.
terms, in no uncertain terms does he ever consider himself the Kwisatz Haderach. He wonders if he is beforehand, but now,
Right.
now that he knows, he's like, no.
Now,
well,
now, just because Paul doesn't think he is, does that make it true?
Well, that's what
I
I was going to
think-
say. Like,
Well, I also think there's subsequent chapters, and maybe I
Yeah.
could be misremembering, but I feel like there's subsequent chapters where he does think that he is.
Well, I
Um,
think we don't know exactly what a Kwisatz Haderach is. It's not just
True.
being able to see both sides. It's also going to be something to do with like causing certain changes, I think, and that's why I think we're
yeah.
going to find out that somebody else is.
I mean,
the Kwisatz
can
Haderach.
we agree that this is all a story of like people trying too much to control the outcomes of like all these different
1000%.
threads, and then it
Oh,
blows up in their face? Like that's what this is about, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, 100%.
All right, I'm good. We can move on to the next
This
point.
is the story about creating Jesus and then having Jesus fuck you up.
Yep.
Right. So I do think though
That
that
is-
like that is a big part of why I'm like it's all been programmed and this is just what's coming out now. It's like not like maybe it's not what you intended, but that doesn't matter at a certain point.
That
like,
is
They're whether they love each other, whether she's a good mom, whether like, and none of that really matters because they don't have a choice. Like it's all just unfolding.
Yes.
I don't know. Chapter 23.
Wait, no,
All right.
that's the chapter we were just going through.
end of
24?
chapter 23. Yeah,
24.
24.
I had two
24.
things. One,
Now this is Thufir talking to
the
Fremen.
unnamed Fremen guy that I was
The
like,
unnamed
okay,
Fremen, right?
yeah,
The
who's like got like they described him physically, and I'm
Fremen
like,
Lord.
should I know who that is?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't.
Sandy hair. Doesn't everybody on Dune have sandy hair at this point if you're
You
living
would-
out in the desert?
You would think so.
I actually really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was really cool. Like they're talking past each other for a little while, and he's trying to figure out what the fuck he means by this whole water shit. I thought it was really rather interesting. Just the two cultures and the fact that they were using similar words but not meaning anywhere near the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. I love this chapter. One of the things. So on 259, when he's talking to him, and he says, "There's a price on my head," and he goes, "Ah, the Fremen removed his hand from his weapon. You think we have the Byzantine corruption? You don't know
you know
us."
what that means?
I don't know what that means. That's why I was going to bring it up. It's like,
Wait, show me, point out
it's
where
on
that is.
the bottom of 259 in our version. It's
Byzantine
right.
corruption.
And
How
I don't.
far away from the beginning of the chapter is that?
This is the one like 3 or 4 pages in.
Okay.
I tried looking it up earlier, and he says
Like-
something about it. I think it has something to do with like money.
like the price on his head or whatever, maybe like that, I guess. Oh, like that they care about money.
That they care
But-
about money. I think.
But I don't
that's-
know. But like, I wonder why Byzantine, like, because the Byzantine Empire aren't the ones that created money or anything like that. Like,
And what do these guys know about the Byzantine Empire, anyways?
I don't
It's
know.
from the Yellow Bible.
The orange one.
The OC Bible.
Orange Bible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Weren't the Byzantines like really strict with breaking of the laws though?
Bureaucracy, I think.
I
Is
mean,
what
the
they're known for.
Byzantine Empire is what remained of the Roman Empire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
the Eastern Roman Empire.
In fact, early Byzantines called themselves Romans, not Byzantines.
Byzantium.
Yeah.
yeah.
So ChatGPT says Byzantine corruption refers to a form of corruption characterized by complex and secretive networks of officials, bribery, and cronyism, often associated with Byzantine Empire and its intricate bureaucratic structures. The term is used metaphorically to describe a convoluted and opaque system of corruption in modern contexts as well.
So synonymous with politics. Got it.
Yeah, or otherwise known as
So-
American politics today, or late
Yeah.
phase.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so
all right.
when this Fremen native from Arrakis uses that term, I should connect it to this Earth context.
I don't. Yeah, that's
that is
interesting.
weird. That is.
Well,
no,
they're
that is
super
interesting.
religious
That's
people. That's how
fucking
they
weird.
communicate. Like that's how
but
they
I-
history books. The Orange
What do you
Bible.
mean?
but whether they're
they
religious,
don't have history books, but they do have the Orange Bible, and because we know that.
So,
because
so you're saying the
Missionaria
Byzantine
You're saying yes,
Productiva
Pete.
went
You're saying yes. I should connect it to that Earth
Yes.
context.
yes.
because
because-
the Byzantine Empire is in the Bible?
Well, that-
Is
I mean,
It's
to me,
probably in the Orange
that
Bible.
raises questions of like, is that how deep the spiritual seasoning of the planet went?
The
or-
Fremen are super seated with this.
Yeah, so
spiritual
if
nonsense.
that's true, then it kind of is interesting because you're like, wow, they really have like prepared the way type of thing. If they know about Byzantium, like,
Well, I mean, Paul kind of points it out that like the Bene Gesserits fucked up the entire planet to some degree in the last chapter, or maybe 2 chapters.
but it is really
in this discussion, right? Like he's like, well, we might as well just Bene Gesserit our way through this fucking mess.
but it is an odd thing to like in
think
that
that's where
conversation of
it'll
these 2 alien guys on this like desert planet,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, like it was Byzantine, yeah,
The Byzantines, yeah.
like
Yeah, which
what?
that
He's
phrasing
like,
is fucking
Why
weird.
he's like, why would you assume that I know what that means? Like,
It reminds me of, and this is a thing I really like in stories, when the trope where it's like takes place in a future Earth, and then you're kind of looking out for references to our own world. Like this happens a lot in the Wheel of Time, and you have to
Mm.
read that a lot to pick them out.
Wait, are you saying the Wheel of Time is future Earth?
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't read it that way. Sorry, carry on.
What?
Do you need me to convince you? Because
No,
it's, you're saying
definitely
it's
is.
like the Planet of the Apes, like Statue of Liberty in the sand
Yeah.
situation.
yeah, kind of. Yes,
Yeah.
that's another great
Yeah.
example of it.
Love
yeah.
it.
So maybe what this is Frank, by using that word, is trying to indicate that maybe just that concept has survived to their time, and that then using that word.
If
something.
they weren't like a multi-planetary galactic system, I could understand.
Then maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, but think about it. They use common terms like this back when the whole human race was living together, because that's a shared experience that everybody who has branched off has.
except how often have you actually used the term Byzantine? Jesus Christ.
Right.
But it's
Byzantine.
In your
Byzantine.
Byzantine, there you go. How often have
Byzantius.
you used that in your normal context?
Byzantine.
Never.
never, but I do know the
Rum.
term.
Yeah, where I was like, okay, I know what that is, but I don't know how that
get it,
connects. But
yeah.
it also sounds like it could be applied to any sufficiently sized government or empire. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, except
it's.
I
I think
a
it's.
negative view of government.
It's not any
but okay.
size.
hey man,
No, it has to be. That's right. It's a negative. It has to be one that has too
Like-
much unnecessary complexity.
like, but it's bureaucracy, right? Like that's
bureaucracy.
That is
Unnecessary
core to
bureaucracy.
this whole thing. Yep.
But
Yeah.
you can have a small, appropriate amount of bureaucracy, and that would not be.
that's
Byzantine.
true. That's fair.
Nobody ever says, "Oh man, I love
guess-
this right amount of bureaucracy."
No, right. I guess to me, it's like I
I
want to know like what about what the Byzantines did or how they did it makes that such a sterling example. You know what I mean? Because it
Oh,
seems
like
to me
how
that
shitty,
bureaucracy
yeah.
is
any
great.
like you said, any amount of bureaucracy is like okay, but like what were they doing that was like noteworthy?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I-
I think like the Fremen, they don't have this whole system. of like they probably don't even barter very much. They probably just build and take whatever they need.
Well, at this point, they're mostly communal, right? They're just like, fuck these overlords.
like
Like, we're just gonna all.
They're
Yeah.
like really like
Yeah.
And in this
comp-
chapter, they're like, you have the right to your skin, but not to your water.
Right.
The water
yeah.
belongs to the
the
tribe.
whole thing with like the I really liked where he's like, I don't know, man. He's like, oh man, we've got wounded. And he's like, what should we do? He's like, I don't know, man. That sounds like a water choice to me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, he's like, what do you mean? Like,
The water better.
yeah, exactly. I thought that was awesome.
That's one of my favorite terms from the entire series. Is that's a water
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he's like, he's trying to negotiate and stuff. He's like, you don't have water. What do you want me to
What
do?
are you
What
what are you
he's-
gonna offer us?
He's
Yeah.
saying that like he's like, well, what would you do? And he's like, I don't know, man. He's like, they probably know if they're wounded too much to like live. And it's
Yeah.
like he's implying that like the way they live is like you're like, and then when the guy flies the thopter into the troop transport too, and you're just kind of like, these guys are
Totally.
these guys are intense, man. Like they don't give a shit.
Power.
I like that too, where he's like, you captured the Sardaukar guys.
Yeah.
Like
Three
he
of
kinda getting, he's like three.
He's like, yeah, they fought well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get the glimpse
Yeah.
of, like, and this chapter kind of ends really oddly because it's this whole like gasm of how rad they are, and then the guys come down and like kill the Fremen guy and knock him out. Like you thought you were that rad, but they got you in the end.
Yeah.
This chapter made me think of the movie 300. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm.
Like
Okay.
fucking Spartans going all out. That's what I was thinking of.
I ain't again it.
I like that.
I'm on board.
I actually really I appreciated that and how they talk about the guns, the artillery that was being used,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, can you tell us how to
Oh
use
yeah,
it?"
he's like, you took one.
Yeah.
But
The whole
in
time-
a sounded way, like wait,
He's just
you
like,
Which
took one.
is interesting because it shows like how much they underestimated the Fremen, even
Right,
when they've talked about how like the Harkonnen underestimated them, and we're not going to do that. And then it's like
Right.
you
We
did.
still underestimated them. Yeah.
weirdly though, Jessica is able to fight one later and win pretty easily.
Oh really? Does she like?
That's later on in the story,
Does
though.
she's leveled up a few
Right?
times.
Yeah,
He's
it's
leveled up.
it's a little weird because like this guy, he's like supposed to be the strongest person in his group.
She dumped her stats into strength.
Yeah.
I always dump my stats into charisma or speech.
Well, that reminds
Same.
me, Pete. I owe you a list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, those.
Anyway, sorry.
It's
I don't have
it's a knock list. It's all these spies and stuff.
Mm.
It's
The
no big
knock
deal.
list. I don't have anything else for that chapter. I really enjoyed it though.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoy it. It doesn't really further the story necessarily in my mind.
It is an
Too much.
important
is.
builder of like these people who are going to
Yeah.
in the future chapters and books going across the universe dominating. everybody.
You're reestablishing a basis.
Yeah.
Is what this chapter is. in
I
my
also
head.
feel like the significance of it is that it shows you that Hawat is an idiot about Jessica.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I-
that,
I-
'cause that comes up much later too, doesn't it?
It
Yeah.
does.
Well, I think that Hawa is an idiot about anything not imperial.
That
is
is
really what I think it comes
Yeah.
down to. Like
I'd agree.
he only beyond the fact that they're supposed to be like supercomputers or whatever the fuck they're supposed to be, like they can only compute what is in the empire.
Well, the very
Oh.
fact that he got upset that somebody might question his mentat abilities
Yes.
makes me question whether or not he's a good mentat.
Yes.
Totally.
Well, but also like and the people who trust him too. It's just like, bro, are you like I guess you
Yeah.
wouldn't know maybe if you're not a mentat. You'd just be like, well, he's the human computer. But
But
Yeah,
if you started doubting your human computer at all, you would get rid of it. You like so it's weird to me. I don't know. And
Well, if you study like any sort of military tactics, right? Like they
Yeah.
all think that they have great military tactics until they get fucked up.
Sure.
And they're like, "Oh shit,
yeah,
I didn't know anything."
yeah.
Usually they're dead by that time. But
Who's that guy that died recently who had like one major advance in the Korean War and then totally fucked it up afterwards?
Are you talking about
I forget his name.
Hang on. Henry Kissinger.
Kissinger, yeah. So
Kissinger, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
so Kissinger, he had like one good offensive and was
Yep.
able to make some good headway, and then all of a sudden he thinks he's got this whole thing down and just continues to screw the pooch, and people still like
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that everything he does is-
I think
Yeah.
of him way more associated with like one of the string pullers behind why Vietnam went on for as long as it did and whatnot.
Amen.
yeah.
Like him and what's the other guy's name? Oh, what's that guy's name? The guy with the glasses.
That's helpful.
He's kind of
Henry
one of those.
Kissinger had glasses.
Only a few
No.
million people that had glasses.
The
Yeah.
cigarette
Help me
man.
out here. No, it's easy to criticize military leaders after the fact.
Yeah.
You know,
Hindsight is 2020.
sure, but I mean, you run into people like God, I can't even remember his name right at this moment. I'm drunk.
Are you talking about the?
I was thinking of the Indian Wars, and
Oh, that's not who I
what the
thought.
fuck's
You were
his name?
Robert
Uh,
McNamara.
Custer?
Custard, yeah. Like he was so in love with his own fucking fame that he led, what was it, 200 against 2,000?
Dude, that happens in that Michael Crichton book that I just read, like the Dragon Teeth. Like that event has just happened as they're going west to look for dinosaur bones. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway,
Robert
yeah, you're right.
McNamara.
I mean, Hitler had the same thing when he was listening to his advisors and stuff. He was kicking ass all across Europe. He stopped listening to them once they started telling him, "Hey, you should maybe tone it down a little bit," and
Right.
he got his shit fucked.
I just don't. It's like, hey, no, let's open a third front. Like, come on.
Yeah,
We're going to stay in Russia in winter. Come
we
on.
beat all these people with our tanks. They were fighting us with
I know.
horses.
It's crazy. Like, so
Yeah.
many retarded
Hubris.
choices.
they
Hubris.
failed to read Sun Tzu.
Or like know about
Right.
Napoleon. Like,
Right? Yeah.
Oh God, Napoleon is a great education, I
The
guess.
cautionary
military-
tale.
Yeah.
How
well,
many more
no,
times are people going to lose entire empires going into Russia and Afghanistan? Like those two places, you just shouldn't fuck with, in my opinion.
No, you shouldn't.
History tells us don't.
I mean, until you can like aerial bombard from space.
did
good luck.
Alexander the Great get into Afghanistan? He did, didn't he?
What?
Didn't he go that far? Alexander the Great.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
don't know where he ended.
Probably.
I mean, I think his death is what kind of broke that all up into all the different things, rather than like choosing to fight there or whatever. That's just nuts.
I think that his thirst for debauchery is what ruined his empire, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, he died when he was fairly young.
Yeah, and then they split up his stuff between like the 3 or 4 of his guys.
Yeah,
and
well,
they made,
and,
like,
and I mean, the theory behind why he died so young was because he probably had AIDS, but they don't really know.
Super AIDS.
Super AIDS.
Not just HIV, but full blown AIDS.
Full
Yeah.
blown AIDS.
But you know, like he was just going around doing whatever the hell he wanted. Which is great. I
That
guess,
movie was not good.
but- well, no, that movie was terrible. But
He sucked.
Which movie?
Alexander.
Alexander,
Oh, never watched it.
I saw it in the theater. It's
Did-
bad.
the dude fuckery is crazy.
Buggery.
Buggery.
Yeah, I don't have anything else for.
Yeah,
So-
I
Oh,
think
I
Yeah,
thought
me
we
neither.
already finished. Sorry,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm good. I'm done.
moved on to Alexander and talking shit about.
What was the thing we were talking about when you were like, let's focus on
we need to hold it to the end. Yeah,
You were
Oh, what was
talking.
that?
Oh, let's see. How did
I think that was
come
you, Flatland. I think you
It
brought
was, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well, you fucked up. You're supposed to write notes.
I'll think about it too. Maybe I'll remember it because yeah.
Or was it during the panic attack talk?
Yeah, it was.
It was. What was it?
I don't know.
It was.
Hey, I do want to ask this question because I have this panic attack dream
Oh, I was going to tell you guys a dream. Yeah.
semi frequently where
an erotic dream?
no, it is definitely not. I have this panic attack dream where I cannot move, and I feel like I wake up and
Yeah.
I still cannot move.
That's
Called
called.
night terrors
Well,
I never know if I actually am awake.
or
It's-
sleep paralysis.
sleep paralysis. Yeah.
I've had
I've-
that. That's terrifying.
I've had it
Yeah.
twice in my life, and it is terrifying.
Oh, I've had it way more than twice.
So what do? You just kind of, I mean, when I had it, you just kind of are scared, and then you try to just like close your eyes until you fall back to sleep.
That is not what I do.
Have you had it where like you can't breathe at all when you wake up too?
No,
I was
I
able
just
to
can't
breathe.
move.
Oh, see, I have it where I can't breathe.
Oh,
Maybe you have sleep apnea.
How do you get? How do
No,
you
like,
get out of that? How do you
I-
start breathing again?
Yeah.
After a while, I just like fight, and then I can like move a leg, and then all of a sudden my
Okay.
body's like, I'm okay.
Well, I've
Oh,
had that
wow.
too.
I mean,
but
that's how I feel when I have mine, but I don't feel
Totally.
like I can't breathe.
I've
just
never
can't
felt like I
move.
couldn't. Yeah, I've never felt like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Jesus.
Maybe your demon isn't as fat as mine.
My
It's
demon
sitting on you.
it comes down to like physical torture. Like I am terrified of physical torture.
Man.
Really?
Oh
It's
yeah.
Oh,
heavy.
I mean, I'm not. I don't look kindly or fondly on that being a possibility in my life, but
You're not pro torture.
like
Is that what you're saying, Chris?
I'm not pro me getting tortured. Yeah.
All right,
not at all.
I can put you down for not pro torture.
Okay.
Put you on the Christmas list.
Oh, you don't want to be on that list. That's
Sorry,
not
will you
what
be having the chicken, the steak, or the torture?
Yeah, the thumb screws, please.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'm like terrified of torture. Like I wouldn't like it. It would be awful and like probably one of the worst things, but it's not something that scares me.
Dude, that's one of those things that like if it's almost convinces me that like we're in a simulation or something, because it's inconceivable how badly some people have been. The human experience of some people is so fucking gnarly. Like
Right.
in medieval France, they're like, we're gonna throw you in this oubliette for 6 months and then pull you out and hang you. Or like,
Yeah.
and there's like, you don't have room to lay down, you don't have room to
Yep.
turn around, like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
To be fair, like there are probably people right now going through things that you couldn't conceive of.
Right.
It's true.
And
More
and
evidence-
that
How is
yeah.
that fair?
Well,
Or
to
I
be-
don't know. Yeah, that's a terrible
To be fair.
statement. To be fair,
um,
but
so that to me is one of the biggest arguments
Counter
against solipsism. Is
How?
like
How so?
I don't want to be responsible for all the nasty shit that's ever happened in the universe.
Well,
That's not coming from my
what
brain.
you want, what
Oh.
you want, does not bear into.
That's not coming from my
the fact
brain.
of the matter.
But
No.
the solipsism is that you create everything else, or that you're just the only thing that's real. What exactly does solipsism?
I think at its core, you're the only thing that's real. So then everything else is an extension of you, which
But at the same
means that
time-
you're responsible for Hitler and Stalin.
Solipsism,
You made a bunch of jumps there.
solipsism would then dictate, though, that if you're the only thing that's real and everything else is
Yeah, then none of that
Objection?
actually happened.
that is also, you would have to say that basically everything is a conscious decision, but I don't think that's the case.
I think as solipsists would say that none of that stuff matters because it isn't real. So if it's not that you're creating it, or maybe it even is, that isn't, it's irrelevant. It doesn't count as the suffering of another entity.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
Are
right.
any of you solipsists?
I mean, this definition is very general. It
Oh.
just solipsism is an idealist thesis. Okay, no, sorry. The view of theory that the self is all that can be known to exist. What is a solipsistic person?
Okay, I
like?
agree with that.
Someone who's solipsistic is so focused on their own wants and needs that they don't think about other people at all. You could
I
also,
don't agree with that.
You could also be a solipsistic person, selfish or self-centered. That's an odd sentence.
So a
Sol-
hedonist?
Solipsistic has a different meaning if you hear it in a philosophy class.
Okay.
I agree with the philosophy definition.
Yes. Yeah. Not the whole like.
Yeah, I
if you're
think that's-
solid, just you're selfish.
Yeah,
like,
your
Yeah.
mind is the only thing that you can know, right? Like that
Right.
seems. But I also,
don't
but it's
think
odd
that's
that
true.
I'm on board with that.
I think that's.
How do you not agree with that?
Well, so are you defining that everything that you experience is provably real?
No. I would say the only thing that I know is true is that I exist. I know I've said that to you guys before, but
Yeah,
I don't think that's counter to the idea of
I think
science
it's
and
easier-
rationality.
easier to
Yeah,
like digest if you posit it from the other side, where it's like you can never know what's going on in other people's heads, or if that's
True.
real, or those other people. Like your
See, that I-
experience is the only.
That
That's
I
much
don't
easier for me
agree
to
with.
agree with. I could say
Yeah. Oh, really?
I can't possibly know exactly what is going on inside your brain.
Totally.
I can empathize and I can understand like where you're coming from for the most part, but I won't know exactly what's going on inside your brain.
Yeah, but would you agree that you can learn things about it?
Yes.
Yes, but here's the thing. I don't even know that what I'm experiencing now is real. What if I have you guys seen Adventure Time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a guy who or a god who exists in this world, and he's the dream of an old man. And he
Which
can
one?
do so he's voiced by Kumail Nanjiani. I forget his name. He's the shadow on the wall. That's how he's represented in the cartoon. Anyway, so
I may not have seen any episodes with this character.
I need
do
to
love
watch.
Kumail, but
I need to watch that show for real.
okay. It is so good. Anyway, so he's this god who has like all the powers of the universe. He can make realities and destroy realities and stuff. But he himself is just the dream of an old man in bed. And you wake up the old man, this guy disappears. How I would posit that in being the dream of someone else would be a valid explanation of what I'm experiencing right now, and therefore would not be real.
It's interesting though that like, but that doesn't invalidate your experience.
Well,
Does it invalidate? Like
my
that's-
point is that like your dreams are never real to me. My dreams are not real to me. Why would the dream of somebody else of me experiencing this be real?
Why do you think
However-
your dreams are not real?
What's that?
Why do you think your dreams are not real?
Because they're
Can they
just
have an effect?
fabrications.
Sure,
while
but can they have an
experiencing a
effect
dream,
on the world?
while
Yeah.
experiencing a dream, you do feel they are real.
Right. Yeah, but that's exactly my point.
but sometimes you have dreams where you know it's a dream too.
But to Freed's
That's
point,
true.
though, awareness of being a dream doesn't invalidate the experience of having the dream.
But
Yeah, and I would even say dreams can 100% have a manifest effect on the
1,000%.
waking reality, right?
I just think it's like a like an exposure on a camera thing or like a lens where once you start to accept that like if you are real, if you are all also real, then when you're on the highway, everyone in those cars is also real, and everyone ever having these experiences and suffering is real. And so if you get that like empathy thing, it gets so wide that it almost feels like it's overwhelming. Like
1,000%.
it seems it's like unrealistic. Like
I see what you're
how
saying.
do you comprehend that? And then it's like I don't that I can't I can't.
You give up.
Dude,
You can't.
Kind of, yeah.
I often find myself in the stranger empathy like loop where I'm like, I have had this moment where I've intersected randomly with this complete stranger
hmm
that has a fully fleshed out life and existence, excuse me, that is just as thorough and just as meaningful as mine own.
Yeah.
And that
Their
fucks with me.
cares and loves and fears are just as strong as yours are.
Exactly.
Are
And they
you
feel
sure?
just-
Are you sure about that? I don't think it's necessarily the case that everyone's experience and hopes and dreams is equally real, equally meaningful, equally
To them, it
fully
is.
fleshed out. You said like that.
Yeah, but to them
Sure.
well, but I'm
Sure.
saying like sorry, go ahead.
Well, I guess my point would be that like sentience and consciousness is a gradient. So just because a thing is a human being doesn't mean it has the same degree of consciousness as another
Sure.
thing that is
No.
a human
Sure.
being.
But
I
let's
would-
say it
Dogs
exists
are
on a continuum.
conscious.
Let's say it exists on a continuum,
Yeah.
like that is arranged
I-
within humanity, which is greater than all other animals and less than
But-
any omniscience.
I agree with you in the sense that like those people who work at the factory for 50 years and do the same shit and they go home and like they have their beer at the bar on Saturday. Like I can't
Yeah.
comprehend that as like I would kill myself. Like to me that's an untenable existence.
Totally.
So in that sense, maybe I agree with you because it's like maybe that's kind of like I'm not saying I'm more evolved or advanced than them, but I've often thought that where I'm like, that seems nightmarish to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I've been the person who works
like
6
even-
or 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day at the post office doing a job I do not like for people I do not care about.
dude, the post office is the worst. Like
So you want me to tell you about it?
no, I'm sure I just anytime I have
Chris,
any
why is
issue-
it?
Because
is
it's
it?
hard. It's hard to even have an issue with the post office because they make it hard to like get in touch with them. Like,
It's true.
like
Yeah.
it's
Have you
it is
tried calling your local post
it
office?
is Kafka-esque as fuck. Like,
You
no,
cannot
they
find
won't.
a
They
phone number
won't
to your
answer.
post
And
office.
when you call them, they won't answer. It'll
Yeah.
ring and they won't answer. And you go in, and
Yeah.
there's like 4 people in there, and they're like they don't speak English, and like,
Right.
which is not a problem. I just
Isn't it?
that kind of is.
How is
actually.
that not a problem if they're supposed to represent the company to the
I
population?
Here's what I would say: you need to be able to like communicate in the language of the country you live in to a point, especially if you're doing a job. Like,
Okay, so it is an issue if they don't speak English.
it depends. I guess it's like, can they speak it like
Here's
as
the thing.
official? Like, if I went to
If they
fucking,
lived in a part
We're
of
in America.
California where 90% of people spoke Spanish and like only 20% of the people actually spoke English, so there's some overlap of the Spanish and English, it would be totally understandable that somebody at your post office or that nobody at the post office spoke English in
Sure.
America.
Well, I was with you right up until you said nobody.
I mean,
but I would go
Statistically,
so
it's possible.
jumping back to the whole solipsism thing.
Yeah.
I get that big time. Anytime there's like what's going on in Israel and Ukraine right now, like
Yeah.
if you just look at that and see all those people and like all of that like suffering and
Suffering.
stuff, like it's incomprehensible.
it's overwhelming for
Yeah,
real.
you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Like, it might as well not be real. Like, that's not real to me.
But
Like,
hold
but
on.
it is.
Is that a limitation on human minds? Like we're
Sure.
pulling
It's
away
like a-
from something
like
that
a-
is really hard for us to
a
understand.
self-preservation thing. Yeah, I think so. And I think honestly that like it's a sign of like truly evolved, might not be the right word, but if you can try to like, you know, accept that's real.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing, because then that builds so much empathy with humans, right? Like,
Yeah. So here, let me, and this is kind of a tangent on what you just said, Chris. So I apologize, but just to clarify why I think that solipsism and my experience is not something that I can know for sure. It's because the only things I think can be known for sure are some things that can be verified among multiple people. Multiple uninterested people can say, yes, this is a fact and it is real. To me, shared reality is the only reality.
So Dune exists as a book because
Why?
the 5 of us have read it.
I would say, sure, it's real. It's real to us because
that's
we've all
like
read it and we can verify.
What do they say that like reality is a shared hallucination that you agree on or something like that?
Sure. I mean, and I would agree with that, because if I said, okay, go to the 5th word of the 24th chapter, we would all come up with the same word. If I said, okay, find the 5th word that I've experienced in my life, nobody could come up with that. Probably not even me.
Well,
So by that rationale, we don't exist as individuals.
That's sure.
so wait a minute, Pete.
Why does that have to be a thing?
I know I've
In
had a
the
few,
thing,
but
what,
come on
Pete?
now.
Pete.
What?
What if there was only one person and your concept of shared reality can't happen because there's only one consciousness?
Yeah, do you think there's only one in a universe where there's only one possible consciousness? Then you would be able to say, all right, that
But I
one
don't-
thing can define what reality is because nothing else matters.
But
Sure.
that's kind of the point, though, because you don't know about the other people, so I don't know.
What I'm trying to say, Pete, is how can it be dependent upon that context? So, like, if you decide whatever the mechanism is for reality, and it consists of these 10 people having a shared experience, and then you just delete 9 of them, whatever mechanism is still there within person number 9, it's not going to stop functioning as soon as the other people are gone.
Because those 10 people who all experience the same thing, they all have a different reading on exactly what happened, and the truth is not with any one of them. It's what's in between all of those numbers, all of those interactions, that is what really happened.
Say that again?
That no one person experiences the truth. They're filtered through your senses, your brain, and all that stuff. It is only through the shared experiences and recordings and measurements of multiple people that you can actually get to what reality actually is.
Okay, so I would say I agree
do
with
not.
you about how you can establish truth and how you can establish facts.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that reality is a different thing from that.
But like what's even the point of reality if it's not
Like-
that?
Well, you have reality on the bottom, and then you have truth and facts, which are things we can establish and pinpoint within the substrate of reality.
Okay.
I guess.
So you're
But-
establishing reality as an axiom, and I am saying that I disagree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I'm establishing. I think reality is an axiom. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. I think that you can have one conscious entity that and still have reality. It will be a lot harder to determine facts.
Well, and then how do you know you're real?
You know that you exist.
Well, how do you know that?
You
How
have
do you know
nothing
that?
to compare yourself against.
I don't need to compare. It's impossible that I don't exist to me. It's not possible for that to be true. I don't exist.
That's the thrust.
Is
The
it though?
Yeah.
truths.
For each person, yeah, it's impossible that
Is
you
it
don't exist.
possible? So is it
Yes.
possible for you to you that I do not exist?
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay,
But I think
is
it's that he can't say with the same certainty that he exists that you exist because he's not you. That's,
okay. But is it possible that what you think you're experiencing is not what you're actually experiencing?
Oh, for
Yes.
sure. For
Okay, so you're saying that something
But I
exists
don't-
and something is experiencing this,
Yeah.
but it may be entirely different.
But I feel
polar
like
exists.
Correct.
you're talking about experience as being objective when it's like entirely subjective. Like,
Right.
Like, and I get what you said about like it's somewhere in the middle of all that. Like that, I kind of see what you're saying, but I mean, but it's like
yeah, like it's hard to specify discrete facts about reality, but if you just want to say, does reality exist? I think it absolutely has to exist because, again, I know I exist.
like
Whatever the
we share
situation-
we share something. Is that reality? I don't know. The meat space, whatever you want to call it, like
yeah,
But do you actually exist, or are you just saying that because ChatGPT built a universe
I
where you're
definitely
saying
exist.
exactly that?
yeah,
I
I mean,
definitely exist.
yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I exist.
It'd be so funny to like start a religion or whatever where you just like fuck with
That's your
people
only tenet.
and well, no, but you acted like you were you're like you just like I don't know, man. You created me. You tell me what you want me to think. Like
I like that.
no,
No, I don't like religions at all, actually, because they cause people to not think.
I think any like group of a size does that though. Like it's not religions don't have that
Can
cornered.
do that.
That
Can do that.
see, yeah,
Sure.
you're right. You're right. That's why I don't have like my.
But I don't
my
think
favorite
that
sports
all-
team. I don't
All,
have.
there are religions that are like like you know Buddhism and shit like that. Like
But I would
that's
argue, Pete,
Hmm.
a favorite sports team, like I know for a fact Chris Banyas is a Penguins fan, right?
I am and
Yeah.
and Kraken.
Really?
Yeah, of course. You
I
got
didn't
to
know that.
you have to support your local team, otherwise you're a chud.
I live in Idaho. We don't have local teams.
Exactly. Then what do you do? Yeah.
That's why
you-
you're a dud.
well,
What I'm saying though is
an
that
asterisk.
you can also say though Chris will recognize flaws within
Sure.
the Penguins roster and the manager or coach of the Penguins. Religion does not normally allow such critique.
What does that have to do with it?
Okay, so I have known many Mormons who still have issues within the Mormon Church, including
Sure.
their local management and even all the way up to.
I would even put my wife in that group.
So I would say that, and lots of Catholics disagree with many of the things about being a Catholic. So I disagree with your idea that religions and sports teams are that much different. Like having a favorite sports team is similar in that there are people who are very religious about it, and there's also some people who are like, yeah, I like that team. That's my team.
Some
Okay.
people, it's their religion. Some people are like fanatical about it.
Mhm.
Those people are wrong.
It's,
So fanatics.
it's pretty stupid. Like people, they get legit
They should
mad
change their
when their
positions.
team loses. It's silly.
The only fanaticism I ever want to be a part of is like an anti-fanaticism. Like I want to be a fanatic about never being a fanatic about anything.
You can't get too fanatical about that, though.
I know. I gotta calm down.
Hang on. To take a slightly different tack. So, because I actually was reading something. There's a stand-up comedian named Pete Holmes.
I
Who
know.
mentioned something. I gotta remember. Hang on.
Hmm.
Good story, bro.
He muted himself.
Yeah.
That was an accident. Has no preference. Have you heard that phrase? The true path, the path to mindfulness is the path of no preferences.
Interesting.
Have you heard this?
I don't think I've heard that.
I haven't.
I'll have to think about it.
Which is kind of interesting. So I saw something where Pete Holmes was basically talking about how he hates Waze. Waze is this app that iPhone users have to be able to navigate, right? And he's like, the thing that drives me crazy is that it's an effort to try and save yourself five minutes in traffic, right? Because it undermines the concept of being able to be satisfied being all by yourself with your thoughts. Like it was a little bit of a jump to do that, but he's like, the thing that drives me nuts about Waze, and the reason I choose not to do that is because I feel like my time is as important as I make it and with what I do with it. So I am totally fine being stuck in traffic because maybe that's a time in which I can think about something one of my loved ones said to me, or maybe I can call a friend that I haven't had a chance to connect with recently, right?
Okay. Not while you're driving.
Huh?
Not while you're driving.
Like Google Maps does the same thing that Waze does.
Because I'm on that freeway and I want you to be paying attention to the road.
You can pay attention to the road and carry on a conversation with a loved one.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Not. Why not?
Because I'm on that road and I want you paying attention so you don't hit me.
This is why autonomous vehicles is a must.
100%.
Yeah, I can't wait. And the longer we go with smartphones, the more I am seeing people looking down at their lap while they're driving.
Yes.
And that pisses me the fuck off.
Not just while they're driving though, but while they're walking. And it's like, oh my god, fuck off.
Kills me.
Yeah, you're not surrounded by armor.
Like I'm like on the verge of like punching these people when I'm walking, and they're like in the hallway in front of me, and like I'm trying to go a certain speed.
But we have all done that in the world, also.
I don't do that.
Sure, but if you're walking around like navigating a city or something, you always stop before you use your phone.
Yeah,
I move off to the side.
I do.
So
yeah,
I'm more on with Chris on this because I will try to avoid running into people or stopping traffic, but I will be looking at my phone while I'm traveling around Seattle.
It's funny.
I don't know where the fuck I am.
It's funny how some people apparently have no care or sense of self-preservation.
Hang on, I'm still here, but I have to use my phone to look up a thing.
So there's a thing in the military where you basically can walk in and it doesn't matter who the fuck is there. It doesn't matter what the rank is. If you say, get the fuck out of the way, they will just fucking move because they're trained to do that. Because you shouldn't be in the middle of the goddamn passageway.
So you're saying that everybody should just be trained to get the fuck out of the way when somebody says, get the fuck out of the way.
I mean, to be fair, they should just never be in the way, but yes.
It's just like common courtesy, in my opinion. You should have awareness of the space you're in, and you're not the only person in the world. So yeah, you should not walk slow and do this with your phone as you're walking through the fucking hallway.
I would agree with that.
You know what's crazy is like the people who like in the grocery store just like listen to their music like no one else is there.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's like, I mean, he clearly doesn't give a shit, but on the other hand, it's like he clearly doesn't give a shit. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. On the other hand, like I want to beat the fuck out of him.
Right? Like come on, dude.
Wait, so when you say listening to their music, you're talking about like on a speaker?
Like on speaker, yeah.
Guys. No,
I even had it where people will bring like Bluetooth speakers with them, and you're like,
no.
Are you?
No,
those people
need to be shot
and smash them on the fucking ground.
Yeah. I'm against torture, but I think that those people should have their nails pulled out one at a time by pliers. But so I'm perfectly fine if somebody has earphones. If they want to walk around a grocery store and listen to their earphones.
As long as they have awareness of their surroundings.
Yes.
If they have awareness of their surroundings, then yes, but typically they do not.
That's why you need Aeropex headphones that do not block your ears.
Oh,
So
see, I have something similar. My earphones, where's the camera? Right there. They have that little hole in the middle.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Oh, so that you can get the ambient sound. Sweet.
yes.
Yeah, no, you need that. You need to be able to be cognizant of the people around you. And if you are not, then you are a fucking waste.
It's because like the world has gone in such a way that like we've bred people who have for so long not had to do that. Like things have gotten so easy and the danger is so removed from like where we're at
Right.
that
Right.
you don't have to. And it's like, then yeah, you might get hit by a car or something, but for the most part, it just doesn't exist. There's not a wolf that'll get them if they're not paying attention or something. Like,
I
So
will
have we
say
made
this.
things too safe? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I mean, on the other hand, I mean, no, because you want it to be safe, but
Right.
but I think you kind of then also the lowest common denominator survive, and there's not like the weeding out of the weak people that probably
Yeah.
shouldn't be alive anymore.
Social Darwinism isn't happening as much as you'd like.
No,
I'm writing that down.
I mean, I like call it what you will, but like, you know,
I'm
it's
kidding.
like the gate is like non-existent now. Like
Yeah.
you don't I mean, these are just observations. I'm not arguing or
Yeah.
anything. It's
I'm just
interesting.
kidding. Yeah. No,
I
I
will
agree at some point too.
I will say this. I have this experience at least once a week where I'm walking through the halls at work and there's somebody in front of me and they're doing this and I get angry about it and I get past them or whatever and I think to myself like, fuck, I should post something in the
You
sandwich.
should get like a giant like a car horn
Well,
and just like hit
but,
it when
but what
you
I
should
think to
curb stomp those
myself,
people.
I think to myself, I should post about this in my group, one of the groups that you guys are in and stuff, and then I convince myself not to because it's like, yeah, but you're basically an asshole. Do you really want to broadcast that about yourself?
I would
But
say
are you an asshole,
No.
or are you just calling
Well-
people out on their stupidity?
I do think it's valid, but I also
Like,
don't.
Being an
like,
asshole also is not inherently always negative.
oblivious fucktards.
right. So that person is probably being a jerk, and you're not an asshole for being frustrated with it. But I would say that like a key to being happier in your life would be to change how you feel about those scenarios because you're
It's
gonna keep
true.
happening.
It's true.
How do I do that, Pete? How do I do that?
You're the only one that brought up happiness in our lives.
You
here.
empathize
on
with
now.
them and be like, that guy's probably going through some shit, and I'm not going to get mad about it.
No,
like that
you-
kind of
Why
thing.
is he on
You-
TikTok?
All you have to do.
Now, if you see that that's what he's doing,
Sure. All you have to do is just go. If getting mad about it doesn't help me, why do I bother?
Okay, that I can get behind.
yeah,
'Cause
that's
I've-
true.
it
It's like, what are
definitely doesn't help me.
you getting out of this? Like, yeah,
Nothing.
Getting mad is just making things worse.
it's that is hard to do though.
It makes me feel
it is.
justified.
But it's kind of a core stoicism. And in fact, Flatland mentioned not having preferences, and I would counter that stoicism. You're okay with preferences. Yeah, you would prefer things be one way, but you try to be ambivalent to how things are.
Well, I feel like stoicism, it like many philosophical approaches,
Mhm.
that we should say,
Mhm.
like it's got great points, but like to live your life as a stoic would not work. Like you would not be. No one would want to be around you. You would not be like, you know what I'm saying? Like
This is the story of my life. This is why
Is this
nobody
why?
has me around.
It
you
all
try
makes
to-
sense
he
now,
tries-
right, Pete?
well, no, like if you read through the things of like Marcus Aurelius's things about like what a stoic should be, it's like, all right, so you're basically not a human being then at that point. Like,
Chris, you have literally like looked at me like I'm not human sometimes for some of the things I say. So
well, that's only sometimes.
Wait. Tell me what some of those are, because I admit I'm not super familiar
Like
with
some of them, like he's saying, it's like, oh yeah, that was. Well, I feel that's true of any philosophy though, where at some point it's a wank, and you're like, no one's can do that. Like, let's see.
sure. Yeah.
So-
well, I mean, it's
so-
always about an ideal that may not actually be attainable in real life.
True.
I would
True.
agree with that.
But just because it's unobtainable doesn't mean you can't come close, and doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be aspirational. So I found the thing. So it's in the Tao. Okay. The quote that I was looking for is, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything.
Do you?
Well, and I
Agree
feel
with
like
that.
you need to read a shit ton of lit RPG.
Could you run through it again? And what is this from?
This is from the Tao.
Yeah.
What's that?
The Tao.
Taoism,
like the
Bible
Tao
for Taoism.
Yeah.
Like the-
Distributed autonomous
The
organization.
Sin Ming. Basically the Sentans.
Okay.
Third Chinese Petrarch of Zen. It's kind of what it's called. So
Well,
Chris asked me to read it again. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. So,
Sure.
so the reason I brought this up is because basically Pete was saying that he has a hard time attributing to any large group that's organized behind anything. Like sports fanaticism was the example that we were talking about, right? I'm trying to make sure I'm not putting words in Pete's
There's
mouth.
no words in my mouth. You're good.
Good. So
Sticks.
But there's a fact taco.
what I was going to ask though
You beat
is
me
that
to it.
what I was going to ask though is that because I do think that is true, because I will say for me, from my personal experience, part of the reason why I decided that the LDS church wasn't for me is because I began to go, look, I'm going to remove any assumed truth that it contains based on prior experience or people saying this is definitively true, right? So taking no preference, looking at it as a whole, especially with one of the attributes being it is either all true or all false. What do we have? And if you technically, with that kind of rationality, if there's one falsehood, it's all House of Cards, right? I promise.
They set it up that way. Mormonism set it up that way. Yes, I would agree with that.
They did. Right. So my question to you is that when Todd Fried says that Middle Earth and The Lord of the Rings is the greatest trilogy of all time,
Yes.
how much of that is based on no love and hate? Is it biased or unbiased? Is that factual truth or is that just fanaticism?
Knowing what I know about Fried,
however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. That was the most long-winded way to tell a joke about Todd Fried's fanaticism for The Lord of the Rings. But there you have it.
All right. That was good. I would say that having no preferences about anything would be a very boring life. You may be able to see truth, but then, like, what's the fucking point?
Right, like it's the whole like Buddhist thing, or like being a true neutral in D&D. It's like it's almost impossible to like. You'd be the most like
you're a plastic bag in the wind.
I actually do think it's impossible. It would be impossible to have no preferences because at the end of the day, you have to. Am I going to go to the grocery store right now, or am I going to go watch Netflix? You know, you have to make decisions.
I mean, but I think, it all comes down to the like wording and phrasing, because you could take it like preferences, like don't have any preconceived, like, you know, go into everything without leading, you know what I mean? Like,
but that would also imply never learning anything.
But here's the thing though, that I think
that's true. Like, are you always starting from ground zero?
Why would it?
Let's just assume.
Why would it? Well, no, but why would it imply never learning anything?
But like, so here's the thing that I actually would say though, that isn't just a dig at Todd Fried's fandom of The Lord of the Rings. Pete is a person that the more I have gotten to know, I appreciate that he approaches most things as unbiasedly as he possibly can. He will probably admit
I fail, but I try.
He will admit that there are times in which his bias does tend to come in. But of all people that I've ever met, he will approach a new topic or a new subject in an attempt to be as neutral as possible. And I think that is an admirable cause that I've actually tried to emulate because of Pete. Right.
Wow.
So I do think that preference in that sense, like to Fried's point, like, yeah, you can have a preference of like, ultimately you can have a preference of like, I'm going to go to this grocery store or this grocery store because I like the produce here better. That's a preference that isn't going to get you in the way of truth, right? Because theoretically, you could also make the argument that if the produce is better at this one place, it's not necessarily the bias.
Or what if, like, you didn't have any preference on breathing, and so you just stop? Like, if you didn't have any preference, then why wouldn't you just go, well, I tried that yesterday, I'm not trying it today?
To me, that's that's reductio ad absurdum, though.
Is it, though? Do you think that that's taking it too far?
Yeah, because you can't choose to stop breathing.
Correct.
You can. People have done it.
Yeah, you choose to stop breathing, you lose consciousnly, and then your body subconsciously begins breathing.
Oh, sure.
And then you wake up.
Okay, so it's not possible
I don't
have no preference between breathing and not.
I don't. I mean, I guess you
don't
could.
have any
You could.
preference
You
against
could.
not
You
breathing?
could kill yourself and then you stop breathing. You
But
made
then
that choice.
again, you're saying I prefer breathing water or not, or breathing all
Air?
of the carbon dioxide over the oxygen in the air. So that is.
Oh, but if you didn't have a preference and you just walked into the water, you'd have the same effect.
You prefer to walk into water.
No, you're just saying I'm walking and I don't have a preference over the water. Water just happened to be where I was walking. I had
That's
no preference.
To me,
You
I
have
still
to have
believe
preference.
that's
He accidentally. He was not suicide. He just had no
Wait.
preference.
Yeah, no preference.
You have to have preferences, though.
Yeah,
Do you,
right.
I
do
agree.
you agree with that? Okay, you do agree with that. Yeah.
I do.
I definitely think that, like,
It's
especially when we're
interesting
talking
thought,
about
though.
physical imperatives, like
Because
obviously,
the other thing is that it's saying that the Great Way, because obviously the Great Way, theoretically, if we're going to actually look at the actual text itself, it's not saying it's a plane, it's a way.
Are you into like Eastern religion? Like, where did you pull this example from? Like, if you,
I literally saw Pete Holmes talking about how he
I
hates
see,
weights.
because so much of that is this. It's just like how you get reincarnated. It's like you fucking like, and it's like I feel like all of that could be reduced to that, where it's like, don't judge people. bro. Like,
I don't personally believe in reincarnation. However, I do think that there is something admirable and positive in approaching everything as open-mindedly as possible.
sure,
yeah, I don't think
Yep.
anyone's going to argue against that. I hope.
sure. So not
Yeah.
all religions are bad then.
What is credo?
I would start from that premise, but then given my things I've learned over experiences, I now have a preference against religion.
And I wouldn't say that all religions are bad. I would say that from what I have seen, evidence has shown me that all religions tend to have one fatal flaw.
But
At
you've
least.
only, but I mean, you say that coming out of one religion, like,
but I'm aware of many.
Yeah.
Sure,
I have
but there's
understandings.
right.
Eastern
But
understanding.
your like experience is so colored by the LDS experience that like you can't say that doesn't inform how you view all the other ones.
That's true. That is
Sure.
a valid point.
That also doesn't make it wrong.
No, certainly not.
I wouldn't say that I am impartial. I would say I'm as impartial as I possibly can be.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would honestly say, like, do you guys feel like that you? And I don't think this is going to be insulting to you, but like, do you feel like that you let your experience in the church limit you going forward?
Yes.
I wish it didn't, but I know it
Okay.
does.
It used
I
to.
am self-aware enough to know that it did.
It used to limit me, but I don't think it does anymore.
Because I feel like it comes up in so many ways where it's like, for how much you guys don't like it, it's like you still refer to it a lot and it still like lives with you, which I get that like it's kind of impossible to not have that.
That's like never referencing your ex-wife.
Yeah, sure. Like
I would actually say
there.
It's
Some
more
trauma
like we
never-
all went to Vietnam.
Yes.
Right.
That is actually a more
That's a
valid.
great example. Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is a
but
valid example.
but so you do think though that if you could get past that, you would be better for it.
Yes.
Yeah. But
But I
like
also acknowledge that getting past it is really tough.
like Lieutenant Dan, it's hard to leave the war behind you.
To be in a
Like
to be in a
Christopher
subpar
Walken in
movie.
The Deer Hunter.
Oh my
I'm
god,
still there is a part of me that's still stuck.
he's
Right?
still in the
Right.
still in the jungle.
Still in the
That's
shit. I'm still
That's exactly what it is.
I still
but
wrap
I-
my head with the red wrapping every now and again.
I will add one thing, which is I like to think of myself like Christopher Hitchens as an anti-theist. Agnostic, atheist, and then there's anti-theist,
Which is like
Which is-
against religion, right?
which is where you actively want to see all religion eliminated. And that would be a better state, and that would be an improvement
I mean,
in the world.
if you imagine it, it's pretty easy if you try, and it would be a better place.
That's right. So
I mean, that like the book you gave me of his that I read,
I see
like
you, Pete.
yeah,
I see you,
there-
Pete. You saw
there
me for my Letterkenny reference, and I see you for John Lennon. I'm with you, brother. Continue.
there were interesting things in there, but there were a lot of things in there too where I was just like it's like that type of person to me seems like they're perpetually stuck in 12th grade with that realization of like being anti the church, and it's like, can you get over it? Like, I get that's not wholly what it is, but there were parts.
So, Chris, to
That might
counter
be-
that, just a hair. That's not to say that you would posit it in the exact same way, but that's like saying to a woman who's been raped, "Hey, we get it. You've been raped. Get over it now."
It's not.
Ooh.
It's not at all the same thing.
Actually, I would say that what Chris is saying is, wouldn't your life be better if you could get past it?
That is
and I think
correct.
that we would all agree.
I think there's
Yeah.
a huge difference
Hold up.
between a woman getting raped and you guys going to
But-
Mormon church for however many years
You
you
wasn't
did.
there.
Yeah,
I went to church too. I wasn't Mormon, but I just like. I mean,
It
good
Okay.
for you.
I don't
for
wanna-
getting
I don't
over
wanna-
it much faster than we did.
I don't want to argue that point, although I do want to, but I won't. I wanted to say that might be true, a true characterization of like me, the kid who's still 13 and can't get over the realization about the church.
Yep.
I don't think you can really say that about Christopher Hitchens though. Like he's a very accomplished person who has written about many other things and stuff like that. And Todd, you don't agree with that?
I mean, I'm not going to argue about Christopher Hitchens as a person. Like, I
Well,
don't.
well then why are you okay? That's what we're talking about right now. So
Sure. Okay.
I mean, because Chris said when you read his book, it made him think about somebody who's just 13 years old. and
right
stuck
now,
in-
I said
Oh, I missed that part.
significant parts of it did.
So-
There were also significant parts of it that did not, and that I thought found like really insightful
Right.
and like But yeah, there's like
I will say I respect him for spending so much of his life on that, because if you read what he says, it's because he realized that it was such an important thing. It's such a big problem in the world. And that's why it made sense for him to spend so much time talking about it, writing about it, thinking about it.
Right, because
So
it is a regular thing that causes problems and pain and suffering in people's lives every day, and that's why he's against it. And I get that.
Sure.
I would
But
say that
I
Mormonism.
still, I mean, we've brought this up too. Like, I don't think you can deny that there are tons of people whose lives are improved by religion too, though. Like, so to me, it kind of comes back to the middle ground of like, he's not wrong, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
Well, to
Yeah.
be fair, he does have an answer to that in the book.
yeah, I don't remember what he says.
It's basically like those are the parts of the religion that you don't need religion for.
Right.
You can have a religion that,
Hmm.
that's the.
But at the same
Also,
time-
like, you can believe in whatever the hell you want. Like, it's when you bring it outside of yourself that it's a problem.
Yeah. I don't know.
Isn't telling people to like fighting religion, isn't that trying to get people to think a certain way, though, in as much the same as religion is trying to get someone to think a certain way?
Yeah, I think that anti-theism and theism are on the same spectrum, and they are like trying to convince
Let's-
people
let's-
of a certain way of thinking.
Let's make a religion called ism.
Well,
The ismism.
It just
You-
ism.
would you guys agree that like science and the pursuit of truth is also the exact same enterprise? You're trying to cause the people of the world to think a certain way.
I don't know that that's true.
I don't think science is trying to.
It's
convince
so
people to think a
complicated,
certain
though.
way.
I just
How is it not?
everything is complicated by people.
Yes, I think science is trying
Like
to. If a
people
thing,
lying about like papers
and then you
that
want them
aren't
to
well
think-
researched and things like that, or religion things that are not being true. Like obviously, you could say there's no religion that's truthful, I guess, but I don't know.
I think that science
Like-
doesn't give a shit, but it will reward people who find the truth through it.
Yeah.
I would put another point on it. It's not really successful if it doesn't have that outcome. So for example, one of the most successful theories of all time, relativity, everyone in the world basically today has that idea in their head, or most people, many people.
Sure.
And that's what tells you the idea was so successful, or why it was so, you know what I mean?
I
don't
get
know
what you're
that I
saying,
agree with the
and is
premise
that
most people
forming?
have that in their head.
You don't think so?
Are you saying
No.
that people don't have the idea of relativity in their head?
I think for most people, the idea of relativity, because I don't know, man. We hit
This
8
is-
billion people on
Yeah,
this
this is like the people are stupid.
Yes.
This
And
is
I
the
also-
Freed is too much of
Well,
an optimist part of the
Freed
show.
is very much
Well-
an optimist.
To be fair, but people are stupid, yet most people believe in a circular world rather than a flat earth.
But that's what's
Well,
interesting too.
I
Is
don't
like
know-
people
don't know
can just actively not believe in it because they want to spite you.
Sure, they could, but I think that still most people believe that there is a round world.
Yes.
How do you know that?
I don't.
But you just
because-
believe.
No.
Well,
That's
What
my
I
I'm
know
saying
that.
is,
That's
I
my
know
gut
that
feeling.
given all of the
that-
evidence from
how do you-
interactions I've had with people, I can extrapolate given the sample I have,
Exactly.
and I get a reasonable understanding of what people actually
your
believe.
reasonable sample of people in North America, I would agree that most people in North America that have had a high school education or better are aware of relativity.
The
That I-
majority of people I work with are not from North America.
Relativity is a more than high school level concept, isn't it? I don't think I was taught relativity in high school.
You
I
are.
know
Even-
that I learned about it in high school. Maybe
even
not
the basics?
from my classes.
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
the
like,
basics.
well, the basics would be what, like
You're not
gravity and stuff
guaranteed
like that.
that.
Like,
Yeah,
Not
see,
just-
that's I guess my point is that the assumption that most people, because like Freed, I would agree with you that most educated people are there, but I can't get on board with like more people in the world are educated than that. That's why I have such a hard time saying that.
Fair-
Generally speaking, religion is a net negative because there
Okay.
are people that are less educated that have a moral code
Hold
that
up.
does help them exist within a society that does, in theory, promote better interaction with other humans. I can't
Okay,
deny that.
all of that.
With respect, I don't know if I didn't explain it correctly, but you guys have missed the point of what I was trying to say.
Okay, sorry.
Because a bunch of people aren't educated and don't know about it is beside the point. What I'm saying is that if you had a scientific theory, you did really good science, you created this idea, and it's true about the world, and then 50 years later, no one knows about it, it means your idea was wrong. If it was right, it would propagate among the scientific community and from there to the people of the world.
So
Hmm.
eggs being good or eggs being bad? Like,
What is
No.
eggs?
No,
hang on.
he's talking about
No,
the health benefits of eggs and how it's swayed over
Exactly.
time. People,
Like,
people
that
have
has
said
swayed
it's
back
good
and
for you
forth
and
over
bad for
time.
you.
It has swayed back because it hasn't been definitively answered.
they're
That's
delicious.
you're making my point for me. Relativity has been definitively answered. It propagated among the species.
Okay.
Evolution. Everyone thinks about that now. Like what I'm saying is that science is also the enterprise of causing the human race to think different things.
But there are still people who like don't believe in evolution and who like don't want that taught in schools and stuff. Like, it hasn't permeated everything.
Well,
Well,
but
it doesn't
even
have
the
to be
people who
100%.
want that taught, the people who want creation taught in schools, they still know what evolution is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To be fair, Chris, I want to point this out. Not that it really bears any weight, but I met somebody recently that totally believes in biblical flat Earth.
That is not a thing.
No.
Biblical
Apparently
flat,
it is.
no. Biblical flat Earth is a oxymoron. You cannot base a flat
can't
Earth
believe
on
in the
anything that's
Bible.
written in the Bible.
Yeah.
what's the difference between
but they
like
do.
just believing the Earth is flat versus biblical flat Earth? That they never describe it as round in the Bible or something like that.
They argue that because there's a passage that says something about the 4 angels holding up the corners of the earth, and
It's
the
like a
earth
circus
cannot
tent.
move.
Gross.
God, I feel like
Not that I believe it, so I don't really understand it.
Sure,
but
sure.
like it
So not only do they think it's flat, but they think it has 4 corners like a piece of paper.
yes,
I told
Like
you
it
it's a
has to be.
circus tent.
It's a
They're,
square.
like,
It's a
holding it up.
square Earth.
it's a square earth, and it doesn't move.
It's a
because
rectangle.
it's set in the firmament of.
Actually, you know what? That's true. There's a lot of different things that have 4 points, but that is so weird to me that anybody.
I
I've read the
agree.
Bible multiple times, more than most people, I would posit.
I would
Yeah.
probably agree. but
There is
not that I
there
really
is
know.
not any part of the Bible that should cause anybody to believe that the Earth is in one shape or another.
That is also your interpretation.
What about
text
what
that
about
you read
the
from one
Exactly my point. If you believe in it, you put it in there.
what about the
It's
map?
not in the book.
The maps are square.
More importantly, why does it fucking matter?
That's a good point.
That was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. Less than and more than.
I mean, Freed,
Sure.
I think that you're looking at it as like very idealistic
Same.
and less
Well,
realistic about how
we-
people
we-
actually are.
We've already posited that
Hmm.
Freed is the most
Freed is the
optimistic of
ultimate
our group.
I know, like you're crazy.
You can't just take that as an axiom from here on out, though. You still have to support it.
No.
I-
We're taking that.
I think it is
from here on out.
definitively an axiom because most of your examples are if you assume the mass intelligence of society as the goal to get smarter, and that is a premise in which I do not agree.
It's not. You have not stated it properly.
No, I
Okay.
don't think he has either. But you argued that in the future people will
Evolve
essentially
past
go
religion.
against religion.
Yeah.
Oh, separately from the conversation we just had. Yes, I do think
Yes,
that.
yes.
No.
And I totally disagree with you. I think people are stupid enough that they will continue following religion forever.
Do you think they're less stupid
Humans.
today than they were 500 years ago?
No.
The
Really?
same.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it is a constant state.
No, I think that if
Wow.
you,
I don't
if
think
you,
it's constant.
if you
I
look
think
at
they're
history,
less stupid.
when people started on this planet gathering together and inventing shit, religion, there was there was gods everywhere,
Sure.
and gods have been slowly
Zeus.
disappearing over time.
Thor.
So if you follow that trend, we're just a little bit away from having none.
Well, maybe, but you don't know though, because you've never seen that end of the graph. Like,
We've moved
Right, we
away
don't
from
know.
the mysticism of gods. We have not moved away from the deification of things we do not
Sure.
comprehend.
And there
I'm-
may be people who believe in science as a religion, and that would be weird and dumb, but it would be one less god, and it would be a benefit, a positive. over
I
religion.
think most people that believe in science in that fanatical way believe it in a form similar to a god.
sure, I would
Interesting.
agree. I
I
would
would
agree. Like a lot of
I'm
people.
amazed. I'm amazed that you guys wouldn't agree that humanity is less stupid today than 1,000 years ago.
Well, define
Many
stupid.
people have
Like,
met-
I'm
okay,
with
well,
you,
hold
Fredo.
I
on.
don't disagree with that at
Define-
all. What are
so
you
what do
talking
you
with
mean
you, Freed.
stupid? Like stupid. I feel like stupid. You're not saying they're less intelligent. You're not saying they're less ignorant. You're saying they're less stupid. So what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like you were just talking about how people in their cars, these fucking 2-ton deathmobiles, look at their phones in their car or walk around the streets with their phones in their faces. Like, people are still just as stupid as they were then.
Okay, maybe stupid is not the right term. Where that came from in the conversation, if you remember, is I was talking about how science is the endeavor to cause people to think differently, right? Think more correct ideas over time. And so
I don't know that, but
I agree with.
and people disagreed with that. That's where that came
well,
from.
the term
Wait,
correct.
agreed with that.
Correct.
like-
yes.
Because most religions
True.
are trying to get people to think correctly about God.
And
Or theism
They're
or whatever.
dumb.
they're wrong.
But-
That's why I'm
but-
saying they will fail over time because
Because the
we're
truth
on
will
a
out.
trajectory
But
of
I
getting
feel-
less stupid.
I feel like the whole endeavor of all science has nothing to do with what's correct. It's to do with what is true.
Yes.
Like, correct makes it like,
I
and
will
I
agree with that. yeah.
and I'm not trying to be
I
like,
agree with
like, it really depends on how you look at it though. But I feel like if you say correct, it's like these, like Sir Isaac Newton or whatever, they're just investigating and trying to learn how shit works.
Right.
Like not like, because correct implies that you could take the
Yeah.
incorrect approach, right? Like, and I don't. That seems
I
like what.
And I think
And there were
I
people
agree.
who took the incorrect approach, who thought that phlegm caused illness.
The ether.
That's true. Like your
But
vigors
see,
or whatever,
I
your
think that the
humors.
problem is that there's an issue in the fact that science is trying to understand how things function. The problem is there are too many people that think the reason why things function the way that they do is because of some divine intervention at hand. So
And they-
we
and
may
they will
begin
have-
to understand, but what I'm saying, Freed, is that you're saying that there is an inherent jump from how things work being ubiquitous enough to eliminate why it works that way.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that people are
That's
too
obvious.
stupid to realize that if this is how it works, then it doesn't matter what the influence is. This is actually how it works. I
Flatland,
don't.
No.
regularly we see that with the advancement in our knowledge, God is shrinking. People need him for less, or use it for less, and it makes less sense for anybody
Well,
to even believe in
here-
some of the stuff. So it's been retreating. Religion has been retreating because
True.
there is no
But-
room left to hide.
Well, point of
Yeah, go ahead.
question. You're saying it's retreating, but I would be willing to bet you that there are more religious people today than there were 2,000 years ago.
Sure, because there's not
Because
that
there's more
many
people.
people. But like, as
Okay,
a percentage,
even percentage is higher. I would
Yeah.
almost,
Capita?
it would
no,
have
I
it.
would disagree with that.
At
No way.
100%. I guarantee. Like, the majority of the world is religious right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority of the world has always been religious, but it's been
Yeah.
declining.
Declining.
But is the percentage declining?
Yes.
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 Yes, that's the only thing that's declining, because as a pure numbers thing, Mormons have many children.
Right. Who all get traumatized, and then some of them leave the church and
Some of
And
them
can't stop
stay in
talking
it.
about it.
Some of them stay in it. Because
some
the
of
other
them do
thing is
stay in
that
it,
there's-
but
sometimes
also-
brainwashing your kids is successful.
I mean,
okay.
is there data on that the percentage is? Let's see this shit, because I find that hard to believe. I would think it would stay the same, if not become higher over time.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's declining fast. But I do believe that it is declining based on the numbers that I have seen in the past.
What were you were gonna say? So okay, but the stupidity thing, you believe that people are less
stupid?
stupid
Yes.
today than they were. Yeah, I agree with you. People are stupid, but people have always been stupid. Like,
So sorry, I'm not really taking this seriously, but
On the argument about will religion always exist, I'm thinking in long-term macro trends. And in long-term macro trends, we're gaining more and more knowledge. We're understanding more and more about the universe. And there's less and less space for people to believe in silly things like gods.
Mhm.
And over time, like long-term trends, there won't be any place left and people will stop
yeah,
believing it.
but the thing that science will never answer is like what happens when you die, and religion will always there will always be a religion to offer that for people.
And it's not enough.
I would
don't
argue.
think.
I would agree
I
with
don't-
Chris on this.
I would
that-
disagree in the fact
that-
that like every year we go by and there's still no evidence of anything happening after somebody's died.
But there's no
Yeah.
evidence that nothing. It like you could say the
Yeah.
same thing on the other side.
No.
Yeah.
No, the reason you don't have a positive belief is because there's no positive evidence. And in the absence of positive evidence, the most rational thing to do is have zero opinion of it, which means
Right.
you do not believe in an afterlife if there's no
Again,
evidence for it.
optimistic to believe that rationale,
See,
the most
I
rational
don't-
opinion is the prevailing opinion.
To me, that's a very like pessimistic way to live your life.
Totally.
You're like,
Is
well,
it though?
no, yeah, because you're taking a jump of going because it's
You're-
not provable. I'm gonna not believe in it. Whereas I'm like, I can't prove it, but I hope that there's something. Like,
Oh, I
that's
hope
it.
too. That would be
but I'm
great.
not, yes, but you've also taken the jump to say I actively don't believe in it, and I'm not going to do that
Right.
because I have hope for it. Like to
Yeah.
me,
I will do that.
that is a negative approach
No,
to living your
no.
life.
No, I think we're running into the same kind of
What's an
conversations
argument
we
called?
had when we first started. Because when I say I don't have a belief, I'm not saying I have a negative belief. When I say I don't have a belief, it's an absence of a thing, not a disbelief, or not a belief that the opposite is
But
true.
if you
know,
okay, but not believing in something is the negative of believing in it.
is the opposite of something nothing?
No.
Is the opposite of like 1-0?
I mean,
I don't think it is.
so wait, so you're telling me that if you're like someone who believes in God and someone who says they don't believe in God, or there is an afterlife or there isn't, that's not
The opposite of believing that there is a God is believing that there are no gods.
that's well,
Not believing in any gods.
I mean, okay, so
That's
you're
what I'm saying. It's not the opposite. I'm just saying that the most it's not a negative thing for me. I'm not saying that there is no afterlife. I'm saying I hope there is, but I'm not going to live my life as though there is one because there's no evidence for it. Why would I do anything not based on evidence?
You've bypassed the hope and gone to what you're choosing to believe is that it's not a thing. Like that is a negative. That is not having like.
There's
can still have hope.
what you just argued, Pete. And
I can still have hope.
remember what it's called.
There's what?
There's a term for what you just argued where you believe that there is no God, but you hope that there is.
Agnosticism, and it's an atheistic position.
I feel like
Pascal's
that's the
wager.
term.
What's that?
Remember?
Pascal.
Are you thinking of
Term?
Pascal's wager, Tyrell, or no?
Maybe.
Oh no, Pascal's wager is bullshit.
Pascal's
Yeah,
wager is
it's-
stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pascal's
I just thought it might be
wager
what
is
you were
like,
thinking of.
Because his
you're
wager
better
is
off
like,
believing
why
in
why
God.
wouldn't you believe in God if there
Yeah.
might not be whatever? It's like why wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Well,
Because
is
because I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
But
The cost
Chris,
benefit
it-
analysis is weird.
Chris, it sounds to me like you're kind of making that wager. You're saying that you want to live your life as if there is an afterlife,
I
if you
don't
don't
think
know
so.
for sure there isn't one.
No, I mean
Well, Is that not what you said? Or-
I mean, I don't know that it has anything to do with how I live. I mean, I guess it kind of does. I'm hopeful that when I die, it's not just blank,
Mhm.
but I don't. I mean,
But- Isn't that the wager?
the wager is that no, the wager is you. Why would you not choose to believe in God? Like you lose nothing by believing in God, is what the wager is.
Isn't that Pascal's wager, though,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes.
you're better
Yes.
off believing in God or acting
Yeah,
like you believe in
his
God.
thing
So-
is
so
like,
you're-
well,
God.
either he does exist or he doesn't. You lose nothing by believing in God. So I wouldn't say that my approach.
Right.
So you're making the distinction between believing it and hoping.
That's a huge distinction.
It is.
And
Okay.
and I'm agreeing with you in saying that I don't think that it's true, but I still hope for eternal blowjobs or whatever. That's fine.
But to me, like I can't like that doesn't make sense to me.
What church should you go
Like
to?
like to hope that it's true, but also
Are you thinking
believe
about
that it's-
signing up?
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry, Chris. We cut you off.
Sorry.
like that?
No.
I that doesn't compute for me. To hope that something's true, but believe that it's not. That doesn't make sense to me. That is
Exactly.
nonsensical. That's
So
nonsensical.
you're saying, so you believe in the afterlife?
I hope that well, not necessarily, but I hope that it's not just lights out. But what Pete is saying
Okay.
is that he does not believe in it, but he hopes that it's true. That doesn't make sense
Okay.
So
to me. To me,
I understand that. I guess I can see how that would be conflicting. But to me,
No, but
it's not hard at all. Like you can say, I hope I find
Yep.
$1 million in my bed
Okay, but
and
like,
not
but if
believe
you-
that it's actually going to
if-
happen.
if you don't believe in it, how are you hoping that it's true? Like that
Well,
doesn't.
because it would be nice.
So you're hoping that you're wrong?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't. Why not just be hopeful or not believe in it? Like I don't.
Well,
Doing
why
both-
believe in something when there's no evidence for it? What is the point in that?
I didn't say believe in it. I said don't believe in it or be hopeful. Like I can't. I don't think
we're
I could
fighting
be.
definitions again. Like
It
I
is-
said,
it's
I'm not-
totally.
I don't have a negative belief here. I have an absence of belief, but a hope, which is fine.
But I view your belief that split as a negative thing. Whereas to me,
this is
it's
why we
much,
can't.
it's much more positive to have a positive outlook on life, to be positively hopeful that there is something. That's my
In my opinion, though, an afterlife is not a positive thing for this life. Anybody believing in an afterlife will not give this life the true due it deserves.
It depends on
also-
the afterlife.
The meaning of life is that it ends.
Well, it does depend on the afterlife. I'm not aware of any religious description of an afterlife that's actually desirable.
I mean, heaven sounds pretty cool. Like in some
Does it? Does it? What?
You sounded pretty interested in my afterlife.
The virgins.
to do with my father.
a real church.
Have fun.
I mean, but Todd's not wrong. Like the meaning of life is that it ends. Like that's
Look,
like it's a good way
Chris-
to live your life because you don't
Yeah.
know. I guess
Chris,
I don't know.
You've never met my father, but Freed and Flatland have.
Little do
Yeah.
you know
They
that I
will-
have met your father.
Ooh.
I
I know,
am your
but-
father.
I am
They,
ready.
they will both attest that he is not a man that you want to spend eternity with.
Yeah, no.
And
20 minutes at best. Small
Sure,
doses.
the Mormon Church says that he will end up in the afterlife,
Yep.
Yeah, but
in the celestial
So-
kingdom.
I don't. I mean,
the,
we could really go down that, and I do not think Mike would make the big C. But
Well,
I don't wanna get
I
into
don't either.
but also
okay.
that's
I also
why
don't believe that my
Christianity's
mom would either. But
bullshit though, because
it
it
is.
does eventually everyone is going to go to heaven anyway, and it doesn't matter.
no, it
But
doesn't.
Not
here's
Mormon.
the
Not
point I
Mormon.
want to
Not
make.
not
about-
in Mormon. That's true.
there's I don't want to
In
get into
Catholicism, yes,
idiocracy.
but not in Mormonism. Sorry,
Yeah.
Creed.
in not Catholicism, like Christian religion, right? You go to heaven, and then what are you supposed to do there? Like according to the scriptures, you
Worship.
praise
Praise
God, you worship God.
This is this is
you're
why
his,
it's funny.
Boring as fuck.
It's-
you're
it's
his
funny-
slave.
It's funny to me that Lucifer is like such like portrayed
I
as an
know.
evil when it's like really like I don't know. That's
Dude,
that.
Well, this
I
is
am
why I
right
would say.
on
This is why I
multiple
would say.
occasions
Yeah.
that Lucifer makes
I-
way more sense than Jesus.
I am not saying I'm hopeful. I'm not saying I'm hopeful to go to heaven. I'm just saying I hope that like what I am and all I've done and experienced and felt doesn't just end when I die.
Mhm.
Mm.
Now,
okay, because it lives.
if that's me, my ashes being planted in a tree and that energy lives there, whatever, I'm okay with that. Hopefully, I'm a little bit more aware of something. But like I don't know. Like
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
partial to
I-
existence and experiencing things, so I would prefer it continue as well.
Depending on the existence, if
but
my
you
current existence
believe it
is
does.
indicative of the future existence
Correct.
that I have, I am down to hang. If my future existence is altered in a way in which prolonging that existence becomes a net negative, I would rather it end. Right?
I hear you, dude. I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean-
totally agree with that statement. Like my
Yeah.
grandparents were our shared grandparents were terribly
alive
off
too long. Alive
in
too
the
long,
end.
right?
Yeah, no, they should have died 10 years before they
Oh
actually
yeah, like
died.
where they're just like
They-
ready to go. Like
Have you
Not
seen
I
that
don't
Ricky
know.
Gervais
They
show?
were like brain
Which one?
damaged and
Yeah.
sure.
Case in point, Christy, like part of the reason we moved up here is to help take care of Christy's grandmother, and her short-term memory is all but shot. And her existence,
No, Alzheimer's, right?
if it's not Alzheimer's, it's just
Oh,
a form
dementia.
of senility. It's just-
Sometime.
yeah, dementia. But
Either
like
way,
honestly, if
basically
that was
boils down to
me,
the same shit.
just pull the plug. Just
I hear
Yeah.
ya.
Yeah.
So there is a scene in Afterlife with Ricky Gervais where he's interviewing this old lady. She's like 105 or something like that. And he's like, so what would you recommend for people to live this long? She's like, don't.
yeah,
yeah.
zero stars.
It's awful.
Would not
One of the
recommend.
arguments why I love lit RPG, like you don't live that long.
Yeah.
You get into a fucking fight that you can't actually do, and you die.
Yeah, I mean, there probably will come. I don't know. Like, do you hope that you come? Let's say come to a time where you're like, but see, then again, it's like if I'm ready to go, I think I'd still be hopeful. Like you're just ready for what's next, right? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of
I
the view
won't.
that I would think.
I won't be ready. When it's time to pull the plug, I won't be ready.
You're like, put the plug back in. Put the
I don't
plug down.
know. Well, I don't know if
I
you
won't
can
be ready.
actually be ready, right? I don't know that I would ever ascribe to being ready. Like that's actually, to me, being ready is more of a religious connotation. Like my grandma's big thing is that you're taking the moment you're supposed to, kind of a thing. So anytime somebody says I'm ready to go, to me that has got too much of a religious tone to it. But at the same time, I can comprehend being in a position where it's like my current suffering is greater than I can stand, and I would like it to end.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that that's universal to everybody. Like I currently feel like I could
Right.
be ready to
I
go.
don't think
what I'm
Matt Lentz
saying
saying
is
that everybody
my
has that.
experience.
I'll be right back.
That's
Yeah.
to me, that's my experience. I'm not saying that's
No.
factual, but-
I'm just saying. Well, I'm arguing against your grandmother, not necessarily you. Like
Okay.
I personally feel like I could go at any moment in time, and I wouldn't really regret much.
Same.
And I'd be okay with it. Like, cool. I made it this far. I had a cool
had a
interaction
good
with my
run.
daughter.
It surprises me because I regularly think back to my sister who died when she was 23. And I'm like, I have had 17 more years of life than her.
Yeah.
It is like every single year since 23 to me has been like, wow,
Bonus.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because that I will freely admit is part of the reason. That's another huge reason why I was out, is because my mom, she died when she was like 49.
mm,
So I am currently like 10 years away from being older than my mom got to, right?
mhm.
And that's another thing that drove me crazy is that she died before she like started student teaching as a college graduate. Like
Mhm.
the years before she passed away was like she'd finished raising kids and had decided to live her own life where she wasn't having to be a stay-at-home mom
Yeah.
and was going to college. And she dies before any of that happens, before she gets a chance to meet two of her grandchildren, right?
Yeah.
So like anytime somebody says is like that was their time to go, there's a part of me
Fuck
that's
you.
like, fuck you. Like
Yeah.
for real. Like
Yeah, no,
who are
I've
you
heard
to
the same
determine
thing. They said they talked a lot about the plan of salvation and eternal happiness and stuff like that at my sister's
Oh.
funeral, and I was like, no, fuck you guys.
No. Because I think there's also a huge difference in the fact that it's like being in a position where you wouldn't have regrets. Because I'm kind of with Parker. Like, look, I've had a good run. I feel like I've lived a good life. I feel like I've left more positive impacts on people than negative impacts. And I
Mhm.
continue to live my life in such a way that I try to have more positive impact on those, my fellow man.
Mhm.
And I try to live my life with integrity.
Mhm.
And if I were to die, will I have regrets? I probably would. But at the same time, I also might not be in a position where I get to feel regret, kind of a deal. So to me, whenever somebody says that was their time to go, I'm like, but like saying it's their time to go doesn't necessarily mean, number one, that it was somebody's plan that it was that time to go. Because like their time
But
to go was they ran that red light and they
you kind of
T-boned.
can't argue with it at the same time, though, right? You're like, I guess. I mean,
Right. The only time I would actually agree with that is if somebody was like assisted suicide.
I mean, I'm not
like,
saying
it was like, yeah, that was their time. They decided.
I'm not saying you can't argue with a church person saying that. I'm just saying, like, as a statement, it's like, well, they're gone and it happened. So I don't like. What's the alternative? Like, what are you saying?
I disagree
again,
with the fact because they're talking about it like it was fated to be that way.
Yes.
Right.
Like, and I disagree with the very premise that they're
so
saying.
Like, if I said that to you, it would hit different than if your pastor said that to you. Yeah.
Because when you're saying it, you're saying there was a course of events that brought and terminated at this moment. Right.
Yeah.
Because really, we are just an amalgam of events that bring us to that point. And then because of the way that the world functions as a whole, there are events beyond our control that can sometimes coalesce into a certain moment. Right. Car accidents are also another version of that kind of a thing, or terminal illness. Right. Yeah. For whatever reason, something happened beyond your control that caused you to get cancer or whatever.
But attributing like God to like Freed and I's, you know, Josh Flan
Wheeler,
yeah,
Chris.
So
everybody here knows Josh Wheeler.
Okay. Yeah. So his son got cancer when he was 10.
Yeah,
Han. Yeah, and that while admitting that is terrible. Is there any sort of godlike plan in that argument?
Yeah, I actually had a really interesting conversation with Josh at SaltCon last summer about this very point.
Okay. You talk to him way more than I do.
Because, I mean, that was the last, like, anyway, I was like, I can't remember exactly how it came up, but he was kind of like, why have you decided to leave? And I was like, here's why. Why have you decided to stay? Right? Because... For me, a big portion of it was losing someone that I loved. Like my mom dying. I think I've said it a bajillion times. I was really close to my mom, and it threw me for a loop. So I was like, this is a thing that I have a hard time reconciling, and it eventually went through that journey. And I was like, so can I ask, like, I'm not asking with any judgment. I'm just genuinely curious. How can you believe in a God saying that it was totally cool for your son to have this event and to be that his last moments were in a vegetative state and mentally he wasn't completely there during his last times? And he's like, honestly, I looked at it and was like, it's better than the alternative. Right. So for him, he's what's the
alternative though?
The alternative is not to have the ability to see his son.
But I don't understand how, like, to me, the thing with like God and that sort of thing, like that's all explained by like God created man and gave man free will. So everything that comes after that is basically out of his hands. So obviously he's not going to stick his fist in and like stop all these little horrible things from happening. So to me, all those things, it's just like, if you believe in God and that happened, then it's just part of the package. Like,
yeah.
Well, the Mormon God is an interventionist God. So true. It's not like
then I don't know how you justify all these things happening then.
Right.
Me neither. Hey, me neither.
Yeah.
That's how I've always understood it. Is it's like, why are people evil? Why do that shit? It's like, well, God created man with free will. So that is like all of that follows is then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could just counter any religious person who's like, who says anything like that. You just say, you know people by their works, and God made all of the wickedness in the universe. The end.
Yeah. But I agree with that. But in terms of like, I don't think all religion is insidiously evil. Like, I wouldn't say evil. Like so many people.
I don't think even Freed would say that.
Yeah.
Todd said he would. Yeah.
He would.
Todd, where you said it's like the people that don't have a moral code outside of what the church gave them. Like, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I think it does positively help a lot of people.
But I mean, those people would be better served figuring out a real value system.
But who are
rather
you?
than just-
Who are you to judge?
Yeah, who are you to tell them what they'd be better? Like
I'm
you
the
think
same
they
person
would
to
be.
judge as anybody else.
It's true.
That is valid. That is valid, right?
true.
At the same time, you're foisting your definition onto others. That's
Sure.
the problem that I have.
Okay, but
How?
tell me
Just
tell
having
me
an
who you
opinion.
would trust. Who you would trust as a auto mechanic, the person who has actually thought about it and tried and figured out some things, or the person
I don't
who
trust-
took
I
to the
don't-
word of somebody else.
I don't.
He's
I
like,
don't
I
trust-
got this book. I
You're
don't know. It
talking
was written
wrong.
2,000 years
You're
ago.
talking
I don't
about the
trust-
wrong person about
I
auto.
don't trust anybody in a mechanic's uniform, Pete.
No,
I
I
don't trust them.
don't. I don't.
Okay, but
I've
that's
worked
my
with
point.
Too many auto
If
mechanics.
you haven't spent any time thinking about it, I don't trust you with shit, and I think you don't know anything about that.
But you also don't know that they haven't spent time thinking about that. Like I don't.
Sure.
Like it's.
I'm not assuming people haven't, but
No,
if
but
you
it's-
haven't, I guarantee you, I know more about my moral code than you know about
But
yours.
you-
if you've
but
never
you're-
thought about it.
But I feel like so much of this is like, predicated on like you're towing up to the edge of this diving board where you're like they like this person thinks about that, or if they do that, and it's like, but you don't know what people think. Like what's right for you is right for you, and I don't like organized religion largely either, but I don't like to say they would be better served to do that. Like that's real presumptuous. Like you don't know what they're doing.
Okay, but I was just going off of like what I know about like how religions have affected people throughout history and how majority of people tend to do better when they're absent.
Like
That-
the Roman
Supernatural beliefs. When they're
Like
freed from supernatural beliefs.
all else being equal, being without a religion is better than being with religion. From my reading
Yeah,
of like how it affects history.
For you,
And
I don't. The whole historical thing of with religion, I don't know. There's probably lots of examples of like society surviving because of religion. Like
Early societies, I would agree. Yeah,
Sure.
the first like bands of people were like, yeah, we're all afraid of the same
yeah,
God.
or like during the Black Plague and shit like that. Yeah, like
I mean, if you want to say it was a crutch we had to develop to get through the early times, okay,
Yeah.
sure. But that doesn't have any bearing on whether it should
Yeah,
continue.
I mean that's.
I mean,
logic would
I
be
think
used, we have
I think-
we have now evolved past it. So
I don't call it
even
a
I would
crutch.
agree that's
I call it training wheels.
I'm not arguing
Sure.
whether it should survive or not. I'm kind of like I obviously the church does bad shit, but it does good shit too. And you guys seem unwilling and capable, not down to acknowledge that.
No,
Like,
no, I would
to
never
me,
say
that's-
it doesn't do.
That
things.
is an obvious thing on the other side of what you're thrusting at. That it's like, but it does all these good things too for all these people. Like,
Right. I'm not talking about the fact that it doesn't do any good. I'm saying overall it would be better without.
you would be
Like,
better without.
Given all the pros and
Everyone
cons,
would be better
everyone
without it.
without.
So you know what's right for every single person.
Why is it weird to be able to have an opinion about that?
I don't think he's
Hey,
saying
I'm not saying your opinion's invalid. I'm just saying like, it's very like you're choosing to
It's
zero
like-
in on one.
because if I may piggyback a little bit on what Chris is saying, I personally think, and this is an opinion, I think the biggest source of most issues in humanity generally is when one person defines what is best for other people.
Okay, no. It is when one person imposes what they think is best on other people, which is what religion does all the time. What I'm doing is expressing my opinion that everyone would be better off without it. I'm not imposing anything.
Not preaching, not going door to door, not
But-
forcing your children to believe it.
It's true, but like those people are choosing to do that too. Like, sure, there are places and times, probably today
How-
still, where it wasn't.
How many people would
how is
leave the
that-
church if they
where
didn't
it
feel
wasn't a
pressure?
choice.
How is
but I
that
don't.
different than a member of the church who never goes proselyting, but is like, all these people are going to hell because they don't,
Do they?
they
do
all
take their
drink.
kids?
Or,
I guess
Do they take their
I
kids
can.
to church?
do you guys
Here's-
not tell your kids? I've had conversations with Todd's kids where their disdain to religion generally is definitely, I can hear Freed saying it. So
I can.
that argument
I
I
can-
personally would say is
No, I do
I
not
can-
accept that.
I can boil our interaction down to something, and let me know if you agree with it.
Okay.
Why I kind of like push back against what you're saying is, to me, black and white does not exist with human beings. And you're positioning this to me that black and white, and I'm saying it's gray, and you're saying it's black and white. That's
Yeah.
the issue that I have.
yeah,
Black and white exists.
it's a more complex thing.
Some things are
Sure.
black and white.
Black
I
and
wouldn't.
white does exist, but so does gray.
Black and white does, but I think with people, I think it's always going to be complicated. There's always going to be
I would
Gray area.
disagree.
Really
I
close to
would
white,
disagree,
you get really
and
close to
here's
black.
why. I'm not saying it's necessarily a black and white thing, getting rid of religion. What I am saying is that overall, it is a
I'm
positive to go without
not
it.
not
The
even
same way I
saying
would be like, if no one had nukes in the entire world, we'd probably be better off than in a world with nukes.
I'm not talking about getting rid of religion. I'm talking about religion, like as a thing, is
Mhm.
good or bad, and you're saying it's all bad.
No, I'm
No,
not
he's
saying that.
not.
So you're
I've distinctly not said that many times. I've said
He said
it
it's
does
net
good things, but overall, it was bad.
it's bad enough that you would get rid of it for everybody.
If it was up to me, I
Okay,
would.
but
I
that
would do
okay,
that.
but
Yeah.
I feel like that's like splitting this fine line where you're like, no, I like you said, I didn't say that. I've said it many times that I don't think it's all bad, but you're like, but I would get rid of it for everyone. So to
So-
me, that like
Yeah,
you're saying, like you're like, oh no, it's great, but also I would kill all of them. Like
no,
like
I'm
like
not
that
saying that.
doesn't jive, bro. Like
No. Okay, so
It's-
can you
it's-
think of something that is more bad than good that you would remove from the world, but does some good things?
I don't
That's what I'm saying.
Spiders.
I don't know
Spiders
that
do
it,
more bad.
Spiders.
do
That's
more
true.
good than
Spiders
bad.
do good things, but I would
Yeah,
probably
I would
get rid of
eliminate
I don't-
spiders.
I don't know that a counter example would fit here and be appropriate because we're talking about like this nebulous thing called religion that has to do with like what happens when you die and like all this stuff. So
Sure. And I'm not
It has
talking about
nothing to do with what
belief in an
happens when you die.
afterlife. I'm not talking about
you don't
belief
think
in an
I think
afterlife
it
or
has
even belief in God.
it has everything like it it
I'm
plays
talking about organized
why-
religions that tell people
that
how to
is-
be. That's what I'm saying.
religions appeal to people because you can't answer that question of what happens when you die. People or you say
Yeah.
it preys on their fears or whatever. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, and whether they believe it doesn't change what happens after they die.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So,
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
I want to change the topic just a tiny bit and
Oh,
say
please.
that I think it is immoral for people to force their children to believe in religion, and that happens every day. And the thing you said about my kids, I would like to come back to because this is something I take very seriously, which is I have, and perhaps I haven't done it as well as I should have, but very specifically have not forced them to believe anything.
Right.
In fact, when Dallas had a friend who was religious and she wanted to go to church with her, I said, of course, sure, you can go to church there. And I explained to her, this is how I feel about it. Please feel free to come to your own understanding of all of this. So,
Okay.
And so my kids are also they tend towards the anti-religious, but I've tried to be very,
It would
very
be-
careful not
it
to.
would- It would be astounding if they didn't.
Really? Because
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't raised them to be that way.
Oh, I know, but like I know who you are, and I know who you is. I know who you is.
I know. You know
it's,
who I
know-
am?
I know.
It's a testament to the point that in the absence of coercion, people will not voluntarily choose to become religious. That's
You
what
don't
the
think that
explanation
okay,
is.
but you don't think that growing up with Pete as a father and Heather as a mother is in any way coercive to think one way or the other?
Oh,
Actually,
No.
we even our children who grew up all the way until about 8 or 9 in Mormonism, and when we left the church, we weren't like, okay, guys, so we're not going anymore because it's all bullshit. We're like, look, when you're older, you'll understand. You're coming to your conclusions. We've decided that it's not for us, and so we're not going. And this is turned to them being much more anti than even we are.
Yeah, but I think it goes without saying that obviously your kids are gonna like the path of least resistance for them is to follow what their parents do.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what about my parents?
Obviously, that's not true in all cases. I guess I don't know.
Well, I think you're missing a really obvious thing here, Chris, which is that take religious families like all of my siblings, right? All of their kids are religious believers.
right.
All of my kids are not religious believers. And that pattern, I think, holds out true among so many people, which is that most parents that are religious force their kids to assume that belief system, and then they keep it with them for the rest of their life.
Well, yeah, sure.
And
But
that-
I think that there's probably just as many people who do what you guys did and
Yeah.
don't force them to be religious. Like I
They-
don't.
Which one?
different, though.
One of them is wrong. Like,
Yeah,
forcing somebody to believe something is wrong. Teaching somebody how to think is right.
Although I would say, like, can you force someone to believe something?
You can be
It's-
very
it's not.
persuasive.
I don't because speaking as someone, I mean, I was forced to go to church, but for a long time I was like, I don't think this is real. No one forced me to believe that, and eventually I was like, I don't believe that.
Well,
And the same thing
sure.
happened to you guys. So I don't.
In
Like,
a lot of families, there's a lot more pressure than what you have just described.
This is
Yeah.
true. This is true.
Like you still can visit your family without like judgment and stuff, right?
Well, not for that.
Not for that. See, it is very different in many Mormon households. Like
Yeah.
divorces happen because of religion.
Yeah. Like
So-
I will say, I think I don't. I would imagine Pete probably had it pretty rough as well. But I think between Parker, Freed, myself, and Pete, I probably had the easiest time. Right. I probably get the least amount of judgment, mostly because most of my siblings are also super gone and done with it.
What is the current topic though that like about the family thing? Is it you don't agree with what he said about the what are
Telling
we?
Well,
somebody to believe something? Like
Well, I was
forcing your beliefs?
I was saying it's immoral to force your kids to believe religion.
I think it's immoral to try to force
Adam.
anyone to believe anything.
Right. Okay.
So you agree with
we
me?
agree on that. Yeah, that's good.
Totally. Of course. Of course.
And well, let me elaborate then. And I see that as happening at a huge scale in the world today, and I want to end it.
And there's lots of people who disagree, who think that actually forcing your kids to believe in their religion, whatever it is better than letting them believe whatever,
I think
because
that's,
they think their eternal soul is at risk.
but it's
Yeah.
interesting with like the whole woke shit because that's totally that kind of thing too, right? Where it's like if you aren't in this definition of what's acceptable, a huge population of people will just be like, well, okay, you should be dead. Like, and that's not right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Nobody.
I mean,
nobody should be deciding when
it's
somebody else.
interesting. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, but it's just like who's like the arbiter of wokeness type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Who decide? Because that's a real thing right now. Like, that's the way a lot of that. Well, with like social media and shit, I guess that's kind of the harbinger of that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't disagree with you at all. That you said it was immoral to try to force someone.
I guess
Yeah.
unethical, immoral. Yeah.
It's kind of yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
To
But I also like it seems to totally like the idea of belief, as I understand it, you can't force someone to believe something, right?
you
Like,
can
it's
though because
Not in such. Yeah.
No,
Like,
you can't make
you can-
somebody internalize the
sure,
belief.
you can,
Yeah,
but you can
somebody's
sit,
acceptance
like
with
people
it.
bored into the family with all that. I get that. Like, it's way harder for that person to even have the chance to be like, the question, right? To start the process.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I agree with that. Yeah, I get that.
Chris, in the Mormon religion, you are given the choice to get baptized
Yeah.
at
When
8
you're
years old.
Yeah.
So you choose to follow the religion at 8 years old.
But you can't. No one never chooses no, right? I mean,
You
well,
can-
fuck no, because
Some-
you're 8
some
years
do.
old, fucking old.
Some
Like-
do, but it's usually like within months or weeks, kind of a
Hey.
thing. I have a cousin that got baptized at 9 because at 8 he was like, I don't know, and then he got
Really?
baptized at 9. Yeah,
Wow.
They-
it was one of Kevin's kids actually.
It's interesting that they would like not force him. You know what I mean? Like I don't. With everything you hear, it's like they let him wait for a. You know what I mean? So is he just going to be like persona non grata and his?
In my opinion, it's
Yeah.
actually to Kevin and Tammy's credit that they were like, hey, if he's not on board, we're not going to force it.
But is everybody like? Has it been perpetually noted that he didn't do it? You know what I mean? Like at 8,
Oh,
it's
I'm
going to
sure.
be like.
Oh yeah. You
I'm
can
sure.
get the priesthood when you're 12. That's the next thing that happens to you.
Yeah,
You can't serve in there's a club that serves the sacrament and stuff like that, which you wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to participate in. You eventually you couldn't get married in the temple. You know what I mean? You're not really in the church if you didn't get baptized.
You're not in the cult if you don't
Yeah.
do the
you got to drink the Kool-Aid.
prescribed.
I feel like you
That's
could
all
almost
in line.
expand everything that we say and argue and agree on about religion about like governments and like I mean
That one's interesting. Yeah.
because it's like okay, I'll give you religion is overwhelmingly it's done a lot of bad shit, probably more bad than good, whether or not it's gray, black, whatever have you. I do like I'm aware of it. I know like there's tons of crazy shit, but like I think in any like what like I don't even know like the mechanics of a interpersonal system or something like that, you have to like or do you have to give up certain things? You know what I mean? Like, is that a real thing?
I think it's an interesting comparison to government because you kind of have to have a government. I can't really think of an alternative. Whereas you don't have to have religions.
No.
So But it is interesting. Like, I was born in America. I never chose to be born here. Why do I have to be subject to the law that says I have to pay income taxes? You know what I mean?
Sure, right. Yeah.
There's no.
Well, it's also like I mean, I guess it's similar to like if you were born in like Rome at a certain time or England in like 1500 or whatever. It's like you're fucking what do they call it? Anglican or whatever. Like you're so now it's double. You're English and you're Anglican. But yeah, so now it's like you're just I don't know, because I feel like you can map out a lot of the same negatives from religion to that as
government.
Well. Yeah,
Sure.
Probably can.
And they both need to be restricted and managed.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't.
And
it's like,
one of them could be removed, and we'd still be okay.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. It's like you could live without religion. Could you live without government? I mean,
Right.
I don't
think
know.
we could. I wouldn't want to live in a world without government.
Right.
I would.
I've seen The Walking Dead.
I want to change the government.
Right. And Tyrell, we were talking about this before. There's some people who treat the Constitution as though it's like some kind of holy writ.
But like the illusion that you can change your government.
Well, I mean,
illusion. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
but there's also the self-fulfilling prophecy of not thinking that you can.
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
but
not wrong.
we as a country should be more willing to change our constitution.
Yeah. I'm very sensitive to this, Chris, because I have teenagers who are supposed to be voting in the next election.
Me too.
And I'm like, if you do not take this chance and start like thinking that you can make changes and make the world a better place, then you are just like dooming the rest of the world.
True.
If everyone agreed
also,
with you, you would all be right, but you'd all be fucked.
It's true, but it also where they live, it don't matter who they vote for.
It don't matter.
That's not true. That's
That
not
is
true.
Idaho. It definitely doesn't matter how.
It does not matter who they vote.
No,
that's not
the
true.
only
That's
reason
not
it
true.
doesn't matter is because everyone thinks that.
Yep.
If everyone stopped thinking that, it would matter.
I have never voted, but I don't think that's the right way.
You think that what you've been doing is the wrong way.
Yes, I do.
That's good.
I just,
That's gross.
you know, like I have gone through too many troubles to be able to vote that I have always never voted.
I will put it this way: if I lived in Idaho and I voted Democrat, the Republicans would still win. But the next time around, people would look at what was the percentage last time. Does it matter if I vote? And if it goes up and up and up a little bit every time, then eventually people are gonna be like, shit, I can actually elect a Democrat, and then they'll go and it'll happen.
Yeah.
But it won't happen unless you do a bunch of cycles where you vote for the losing party.
That's interesting.
To be fair,
How long would that take
I don't
in
think
Idaho?
that really happens until you get rid of gerrymandering.
Yeah,
So-
gerrymandering, term limits.
No.
Yes, there are issues, but you won't get rid of gerrymandering until we stop Republicans from needing it.
Yeah,
I
Oh,
don't
well,
think
and
the way
Democrats
it
do it
existed
too. Democrats
in
are
the
just
beginning.
I mean,
But
me
like-
saying that it doesn't matter. I'm not saying they shouldn't vote. I think that's just something to be aware of, or it's like the reality of the system in which you've been hatched. You know,
I would
Right.
agree with
Right.
measuring your expectations. I would agree
because
with
I vote for who I want to be president,
yes, and that's
Well,
who I want you to vote.
and
for.
I don't. It was just like I'm not going to vote for Trump or Biden if those are the two choices on there.
Yeah.
Like because I don't
Ooh.
want.
What would be the two choices?
I don't want-
Interesting.
I'm not going to vote for
That's
either
fine.
of them. then.
If everybody who didn't want both of those guys to win went out and voted for whoever they thought would be a better president, I still think we would have a better world than we have right now, where people are just disillusioned into thinking that we only have two options.
Right. So I think
Agreed.
I think it's like you need to vote. Like
Mhm.
You do. Like I said, like I don't think that my
And so do you.
current actions have
Which is why I'm running on a platform of mandatory voting.
but it is this interesting
I like that platform. I really do.
it's a really interesting like cognitive dissonance thing where it's like the importance of the vote, or is it important in certain situations? Like it's a really fucked up system to try to like feel good about participating in. Like
It is. But it's better than
because
all the others we've had
you
so
know
far.
it's like I'm not aware of the fact that it's like, well, if you don't vote for Biden, then that's a vote for Trump. And it's just like on the one hand, go fuck yourself because that's defeating everything. But on the other hand, go fuck yourself because I know you're right. Like
right.
I hate it.
Yeah,
it's
the
really
problem with
stupid.
the two-party system. It
Agreed with that.
shouldn't be a two-party system. This comes back to, in my opinion, the argument about not changing the Constitution. Like we have in the Constitution said that there needs to be at least two parties. Like
It doesn't say
Why?
that.
It does not.
It doesn't say that in the Constitution.
In fact,
Parties are not mentioned in the
George
Constitution.
Washington, in his farewell address, warned against becoming a system that used parties.
the military-industrial complex.
He did.
where did
that was a
there
few.
has to be
That was
two
a few
parties?
presidents later.
It doesn't say anywhere that there has to be two parties. There's no.
It's not
That
even
has-
officially government recognized anywhere, really.
Not. It is still currently not the case. There could be a third party.
Isn't it weird how
Sometimes
like
happens.
how hard we as a people or the rule makers have their lips wrapped around the shaft of what was written
Shaft.
like 300 years ago,
Oh,
200 years ago?
but-
Like
Those-
I do want to make a tiny case for two parties, a two-party system. Now, I think there should not be structural advantages to one party or the other, like the gerrymandering we talked about, like the disrepresentation in the Senate. Those things are
Mhm.
bad and should be removed.
Mhm.
Assuming that stuff didn't exist, I kind of like a two-party system because it forces people that want to make big changes to come into one of the existing systems and move it towards the direction they want it to go. And if they're able to,
I hear
they'll
you,
get more
Freed.
done.
I hear you, Freed. But if you wanted to do the same thing in something like a parliamentary government, you just create a coalition.
Yup.
So you can have a similar result and still have somebody that you actually care about voting for.
I just feel like too that it's having a two-party system puts it on this course of like this ball that flips every so often, and then it flips back when the other person comes, and it's like pretty predictable, like conservative versus like Republican.
Well,
But it's interesting too because those parties and the tenets have changed a lot over time. Like when you look at like was this Republican or Democrat, like in the 1800s or whatever, you get it wrong because it was switched.
Yeah.
Like that's
and I think
interesting.
I think that's the strength of the system, that it allows those shifts to happen over time. Now, problem with the parliamentary system is you can also be unable to form a government. Now there's no government for a period of time. You can have coalitions where this party, I bet you don't, I'm not a historian of parliamentary governments, but I bet you don't have parties that have lasted for 200 years in those.
Sure. But even the parties that have lasted for 200 years in America aren't the same
They
parties.
totally
that were.
change. Okay, that's true.
What is the benefit or argument of 4 years for a term? Why not 2 years?
I think 4 years is terrible.
The problem with 2 years.
I think it might be like linked into everything else, how everything else turns over or something. I don't know, but I've wondered that too. It's like 4 years is a long time. Like,
See,
I think it should be longer.
Really?
I think every president should get 1 6-year term.
Good.
That
So
is
that-
my argument.
that
No
way-
re-elections. That would be good.
No
I
re-election.
like
Get one
Reed, what
term,
was
and
the
it's done.
thing you said about how like it should be somebody who doesn't want to be president or whatever, and they should have them do it for
Pete,
lottery-
I think that ink better.
I think that's such a cool
I want to
idea.
see it closer.
Yeah, totally.
Is that
Okay,
it's
your
a
armpit.
That's a.
No,
That's
No,
a
my
red
armpit's up
flag.
here, but
It's the wheel of time, Pete.
Celtic, was that a
Celtic
Celtic
knot?
knot?
Yeah. I got that in Scotland. This one I actually just got what a
Oh
week
shit!
ago.
That looks
week and
so
a half?
nice.
Dude,
That is cool.
This is the start of my sleeve.
nice.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, so what does yours mean to you?
Well, I have some kanji in there that says Mushitsuji, which is the god of chaos,
Okay.
Sounds about right.
the chaotic tree, and
Okay. I can appreciate that. For me, though, it is actually a stoic virtue.
Oh yeah.
The tree? Or
So the stoic virtues are courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom.
Well, you're
which
there's-
virtue is that?
there's more though than that.
But
There
those
are-
are the core four.
Those are the core four.
Well, there are. Well, I guess depending on what you
Continue,
do,
Pete, with the
there
meaning
are
of
7. There are 10. If you look at the broader, that's where I find where I'm like, yeah, but some of these I don't know. But
Right. Right.
I
So-
totally don't disagree that there are aspects of stoicism that would help everyone.
Yep.
So to me, the tree is representative of temperance. So that's what it is to me.
Okay.
The next parts are going to be fun though.
I think it's interesting. Like one of them is accept what's beyond your control. That's a huge one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting because that is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because
into like just accepting anything as it comes.
Yeah.
I
Good
don't
thing the
think that,
founding
like,
fathers
being-
didn't accept what was already there.
So no, it's not that you should just sit there and just like be ambivalent to whatever happens in the world. It's that you shouldn't let it bother you, and you should do what you think is right regardless.
Correct.
I'm glad that Sam Adams was bothered by the text.
well, but this is really interesting because
he was
Epictetus.
pissed.
Epictetus is one of the big dudes, right?
Yeah,
This is him talking. I've never been hindered in the exercise of my will or constrained to do anything against my will. And how could that be possible? I have submitted my impulses to God. It is his will that I should have a fever. That is my will too. It is his will that I should get something. This is what I want too. He doesn't want that, nor do I.
Right. So that's kind of going back
yikes.
to Flatland's like not having a preference. It's just
Yeah.
like whatever happens is what I wanted to happen all along.
But he's also trusting to
But,
God, which is hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen what gods do to people? Like
Yeah.
even the good ones. Like even like
I mean, I think it's
and
it's
look at
hilarious
Job.
that you
That's-
like it so much when that's in the core side of it, that they're like trusting to God to do
Yeah.
that.
you don't see a bust of Epictetus on here, do you? Do you have to agree with everybody
That's a-
who's
that's
ever
an
been a member of
Epictetus.
your group?
But I see some Epictetus.
Those
too.
Those are right here. But yeah, that's like, so this isn't quite.
Yeah,
like
that
a
was you
religion.
don't. They don't even need to respond to that. I was just that was
Okay.
bullshit on my part.
Okay. Okay, good. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't believe in everything that every single Stoic has ever said.
But like, what is the live? What is the live according to nature? At the core
I'm
of
not
Stoic,
sure what that
Temperance,
would
right?
mean.
Zeno's
That'd be
idea that a
temperance?
smooth flow of life comes
Oh.
from living in agreement with nature.
So that's kind of got a bunch of different things into it. Like some of it is like, don't try to live an opulent lifestyle full of things you don't actually need.
Fight Club.
Fight Club or Mr. Robot.
Oh yeah, we don't control external events. We only control our thoughts, opinions, decisions, and duties. So again, I think in some ways that's very healthy and beneficial, but in some ways that could be really bad because you're just not doing anything.
Has anybody else here watched Mr. Robot?
I have.
With Pete.
I have not.
I didn't finish the first season, but I do know the big stinger at the end. But I've heard that show is amazing.
So good.
We'll have to do a deep because I remember reading and like half of them I was like, fuck yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the other half I was like, what the fuck is that even like how would that help you?
Well, maybe we'll have to do a Stoic book one of these days. I don't know.
Read Marcus Aurelius, like what's like
The Meditations.
the meditations, yeah. I have that. I've got that.
I've read it. It's good. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
It's just like anything though. It's like even with modern religion, like there are good things. If that helps you, take it.
Exactly. But the problem with modern religion is that if you find anything wrong with it, then it's all wrong. Because that's how they set it up.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that there are things that can be.
Oh, I don't disagree. Like,
Yeah.
The
like
non-religious bits.
I think Pete and I would agree on that. Like,
Yeah. my whole point is just that like you can get all the good stuff without the religion.
you can. It's true.
Yeah.
But just because you hear about it from religion doesn't automatically dismiss it, I guess
Agreed.
is what I'm saying.
Agreed. It does make me a little bit skeptical.
Wary.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
healthy skepticism should be paired with it. I agree with that. I agree with that.
All right. Well, I think we have officially ended this conversation.
Guys, we did it.
We made it.
We have
We
doomed.
We did like 7 hours.
I started early,
Oh, no,
hoping that we would end early.
4 hours. Sorry, I was here for 4, not 7 hours.
Okay.
7 o'clock.
Hey, I don't work tomorrow, so
Oh, rub it in.
I don't work
All
tomorrow
right.
either.
I have to work. So
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
happy
Yeah.
Happy New Year's,
So,
guys.
have fun reading half of the rest of the book for next time, guys.
Yeah.
Yep, I will.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we?
Later, guys.
Wait, are we meeting Sunday?
Well, that's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
was going to say. Are we still just doing a 2-hour, like just a normal approach for that?
I want to.
Right?
I would like to try to fit the entire 100 pages or whatever the fuck it is into a single hour if we can.
That
We
would
can
be
do it.
great.
I'm going
What
to
we
try to
can't
take.
do is put any other subject in a single hour, though.
True.
Like literally anything else we could talk about for decades.
Yeah, no, I'm totally okay with these after-hour conversations. I love those.
Yeah.
These are fantastic. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything that you guys all say, but
that's the point.
yeah.
I mean,
and, and I approve of your ability to be wrong, so it's fine.
My
That's
ability.
what I
I'm
love.
kidding.
That's what I love about
I'm
you.
kidding. I'm kidding.
well, that's
What
actually
a-
the thing I
what a
like
guy.
most about this group is that I know nobody is actually offended by anything anybody else has said. Right?
I'm offended by everything that Chris says.
He's pretty offensive.
Yeah.
I try.
Good night, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye.
So yeah.
Later.